Alrighty, guys. Hope you guys are having a wonderful evening so far. Yesterday's stream got cut short because of my internet. Tonight's stream, I think, is going to get cut short as well. Just because I feel like shit, so... we'll see. We'll see how it goes, guys. Oh, buddy. Hope you guys are having a wonderful Friday, though. Oh, jeez. Literally, this, literally feels like I'm, like, just fucking achy all over, like I got the flu. Yeah, good old booster shot, guys. Oh, yeah, this is hitting me pretty good compared to the last one. The last booster wasn't nearly as bad. The last booster wasn't, ambivalent or whatever it's called, where it's for both Omicron and normal COVID. And this one's from both. So, oh, buddy. Let me get my coffee. Alrighty, guys. Yeah, this is fucking hitting me. It feels a lot like, so earlier this year I was sick with Omicron, and I've never been near, well, maybe, I've been pretty sick in my life, and that was definitely, it was up there with one of my top sicknesses. That was really bad. I went through, it felt like I had the flu. It felt like, at different times, by the way, it felt like I went through like 4 different sicknesses. I was achy as shit. It felt like I had the flu at one point. Another point, it felt like I had strep throat. Another point, it felt like I had, allergies. I don't fucking have allergies where my nose got so stuffed up it just like insane amounts of pressure in the front of my face. Felt like I was literally like I hurt to move and I was so weak like I couldn't stand properly at some points. This feels kind of like that as far as the body aches go, but it's not nearly as bad. It's about maybe half of what I was feeling. So it's still relatively decent as far as a response goes, but definitely not the same feeling I had earlier this year, so I'll definitely take that over what I was experiencing. Good. Yeah. Ah. Anyways, I feel like kind of shit right now, and then I was also doing stuff today, and that just made everything worse. Going out of my way to do different things definitely made things worse. Oh. I took an ibuprofen already. I might just take another one. I generally don't like imbibing in painkillers as possible, kind of thing. Yeah, I hope you guys are having a wonderful evening so far. This means I'm kind of on the weather right now. I don't know if I'm gonna. We'll go through the podcast and we'll see where I'm at later on tonight. Afterwards, at the end. Good. Righty. See what's going on in the tubes tonight. We were going to cover stuff yesterday. We talked about like the Nord pipeline exploding yesterday. Didn't really get much further past that. I also watched Made in Abyss, which is absolutely fucking fantastic. I'm gonna have to write a review on that before. Like, I definitely do not feel like writing a review right now. And unfortunately, I watched it while I was kind of starting. I started feeling sick yesterday at about 6 in the morning. Today at 6 in the morning. So it's like 12 hours after I got my Alrighty. Now I feel achy as shit. I definitely was running a fever earlier today, so. $4,080, actually $4,070, yes. Peak mode must test feature, yeah. Fuel for efficiency, which a lot of people were bitching about. The 4000 series is not out until the 12th, I believe. Ooh, oh, that's 2 years ago. What happened to B1M? Where's B1M's new videos? Sweeten is unconquerable. Because it's literally just surrounded by mountains and then, like, water. It's like a moat. Surrounded by a moat and mountains. Edge Runner is actually incredible. Yes, it was pretty good. Pretty fucking good. You can blame that more on... the anime studio doing a really good job, more so than Cyberpunk. This is gonna be so DMCA heavy. I can't imagine them not using Star Wars audio in it. How Nickelback became the most hated band ever that didn't. It was just aligned with a very easy to target demographic. And they just pour on their haterade and it becomes what is it? An ugly duckling. There's a name for a social object that people just make fun of. It's like gnomes in World of Warcraft. Same thing. Same concept. Putin annexes Ukraine regions. You can't just annex parts of Ukraine. Like, the world has to acknowledge it for it to be an annex. Say you annex something, it doesn't mean you do. $7,000 series still. Winter Rising on the Lazy River. Maybe just take a peek at that. I'm actually debating on how much I want to watch here, guys. Let's take a look at a B1M. It's been a while. Is there a new B1M I just missed? There has to be. Yep. Yep. IU Narc's World Trade Center is still unfinished. They did that on purpose. Huh. Look at the construction site one. Take a peek here, guys. B1M's pretty fantastic.
Our planet's polar regions are among the most remote and hostile environments known to humankind. But while these worlds may feel detached from our everyday lives, what happens here, in fact, affects us all. For more than a century, research teams have studied these environments to learn more about our planet as a whole and to monitor how it is responding to man-made climate change. Now, to ensure that it remains at the cutting edge of research, the British Antarctic Survey have partnered with specialist contractor BAM and UK engineering firm Ramboll to upgrade a number of the survey's sites in Antarctica. 5 hours by plane from the nearest town, in temperatures that barely peak above freezing during the summer, and contending with some remarkable challenges, this is the world's most extreme construction site. The need to visit the world's most hostile continent is driven by our desire to learn more about our planet and understand how it is responding to a rapidly changing climate. What happens in Antarctica has a significant effect on the wider world and its ocean systems, and its 4-kilometre thick ice sheet contains a unique record of the Earth's climate over the past million years. To ensure that the UK remains at the forefront of climate, biodiversity and oceanographic research, the country's Natural Environment Research Council has invested more than £300 million over a 7-year period to upgrade and modernise facilities across the British Antarctic Survey's network of sites on the continent.
Oh.
Many of these upgrades revolve around the Sir David Attenborough research vessel, due to launch in 2020. Measuring 30
From
metres
October
longer
9th,
than its predecessor, the
2019.
James Clark Ross, wharf facilities at Rothera and other research sites across the Southern Ocean need to be expanded in order for the ship to dock and unload supplies efficiently.
The British Antarctic Survey is responsible for delivering science in the polar regions. We have 5 stations in Antarctica, or sub-Antarctica, including South Georgia. The work that we do in the marine environment and the polar environment and ice cores and glaciology, all these things make a huge contribution to our understanding of the polar regions and, by extension, the planet.
So the BAM Group are a worldwide construction firm. The current project I'm working on is upgrading the facilities in a place called Rothera in Antarctica.
Ah, Irish.
Part of a framework that BAM is working with British Antarctic Survey and Ramboll, the technical advisor.
We have commissioned this new ship which allows us to continue doing science in the remote parts of this world. The new ship, the Sir David Attenborough, is going to allow us to get further into the polar regions. But as well as a new ship, we need infrastructure that supports the new ship. A lot of our land-based assets and buildings and so on were getting towards the end of their usable life, so that there was a requirement to upgrade them anyway.
Following an 18-month period working with the construction team and BAS in Cambridge in the UK, we've just been out to site for 6 months for our first construction season. Rothera Wharf is a 2-season project where we've dismantled the old wharf and we're about halfway through building the new wharf. Our target is to finish building the wharf April 2020.
With a population of more than 100 people during the summer months, the survey's largest facility is the Rothera Research Station, located on Adelaide Island, just off the Antarctic Peninsula. Undertaking construction works here is far from easy, and the project to expand Rothera's wharf and its associated facilities has been
There's
approached
actually a
unlike any
college
other.
in
From
Antarctic.
the outset,
If you guys
the key
are
members of the
curious
project
about that.
team formed a
Yeah,
close
they
partnership.
actually have a college there and a small city.
Antarctica is very far away, particularly from the UK, so it's a very remote place.
Pretty, like,
it's an
living in the middle of
enormous
nowhere is one thing.
continent,
Living in the middle of
so it's
nowhere
very
and basically
difficult
being
to
cut
get
off from everything,
one place to
a little bit
another
different.
In Antarctica. Clearly, the environment is very challenging.
It
I
sucked
think
to
we
be a
say
kid
it's the
living there.
coldest, highest, driest, all sorts of other adjectives about how difficult it is to
Your parents
actually
work there?
do science and any other support works in the continent.
Some particular unique things such as orcas and leopard seals, which mean restrictions on our diving works for when we have our divers in the water, either helping during the dismantling of the old wharf or when we're building the new wharf. We have icebergs that float past and we hope don't come too close to us when we're building the new wharf. But we have lots of snow and ice and lots of other things that you don't necessarily have to deal with on our UK projects.
Okay, never gets snow?
A lot of aspects of delivering
they're
construction
far enough
projects
north.
in Antarctica are a bit counterintuitive. So you just need to forget one fairly simple part of a project. You know, it could be a small part of a machine. And if you do that, all of a sudden, your entire season is wasted. So you have to plan so much in advance.
The 12 months that we spent together as a staff team planning the works were obviously crucial before we all flew off to Rothera. When we completed our design, we worked hand in hand with both the permanent works designer and in-house BAM team in The Hague with our temporary works designers in Camberley. And we brought all the design elements together through digital models to make sure that we had clash detection and planning in place. We used those things at pre-deployment training really to make sure that everyone had as much knowledge as possible and
Look
landed
at
on
the
ground
physics,
and
guys.
knew what they had to do.
That's great physics.
The build it before you build it approach is very important. The frames are modular, so that we have 10 fairly similar ones in the back, 10 fairly similar ones in the front. But to make sure that they all work properly, we actually built them all in the steelwork fabricators yard in Southampton before we even took them on the ship. Because what we don't want to do is get to site and try and build it for the first time and realise it doesn't work.
Thankfully all those trials went really well and we didn't actually need any rework, but we had that sanity check done in the UK to save us time. It's obviously a lot easier to make any changes in the UK than it is out in site. Conditions can be a lot worse than they are over here at home.
The main driver for our programme and our partnership model is that we wanted partners that we knew had all the competences to deliver what we need, but also they were going to stick with us for a long time.
So British Antarctic Survey, BAS, they tendered for a construction partner to work closely with during the early engagement and the planning for the works and also the delivery and the construction on site. BAM were successful in winning that tender. That was announced about January 2017. And since then we've been working on the planning for the initial projects, as well as our team in Cambridge working alongside BAS with the planning. We also have people that go to site and deliver the projects.
It's not really much use for us to spend quite a lot of money getting our partners up the learning curve to become good at Antarctica, you know, to get the polar badge, as it were, and then suddenly decide they've had enough to go somewhere else. So continuity of the team is very important. We're looking for a long-term commitment. So what we do is we commit long-term to them. So we've put in place 10-year contracts. So BAM came in as our construction partner about 3 years ago because we want them to help us deliver a large programme, but over a long period of time. Committing to a long-term collaborative partnership is fundamental to the success of delivering projects in Antarctica.
We hand select people that we think both have the skills that are needed technically to deliver the projects, but just as importantly, living with 50 of your colleagues for 6 months, that we think will get on well and be able to deal with the environment that we're faced with when we're living together closely and working together closely for such a long time.
Most people in construction are used to working relatively short on-off periods.
Yeah,
We're asking
it's like moving in with a
6
new
months
new girlfriend or
before they
boyfriend,
then
right?
get their
Immediately.
well-earned break.
Not
That's
everyone.
very tough.
Once they move in together, guys,
Antarctica
not
is an
everyone
amazing
coexists
place.
properly.
I mean, scenically,
Good
it's
evening, expansion.
fantastic. And you know, most people will look back at these projects as the highlight of their careers. However, it's not easy because you can't get home.
As well as having all our plans in place for building the job. In some ways that becomes the easy bit, and we've also got to consider how we keep people engaged and happy for six months.
Geeks would do well there. Well, we just need a computer.
It's a fantastic place. We are absolutely not roughing it. The facilities we have are very, very good. You know, we have comfortable accommodation, fantastic chefs. The food is very, very good, but you can't get away from the fact that you're stuck there and you cannot get away. We've got a big investment in mental health, and we have to manage the interplay.
Not even a big investment, a small investment compared to the price that they probably have on this project and how much money the company is willing to make. A small investment on R&D or R&R for the people working here to keep them happy so they don't flip out and you end up with a bunch of setbacks. It's actually a big deal. There isn't a big investment. I would not classify it as a big investment as much as it being a small investment comparatively to the rest of the project, and as such, it's just something that has to be done from a business perspective.
The construction team and the BAS team, who are generally come from quite different backgrounds, but actually the conclusions from last season was it was one of the most successful seasons we've ever had at Rotherham, partly because of the amount of planning that went into delivering the project, but also the integration of all the people from both the BAS side and the BAM side.
We have a really engaged team, the majority of who are going back to work on season 2, which is great for me as a project manager that they're all happy to go back.
Cool. Uh-oh.
One of the things we need to consider during the planning is biosecurity. This is important to make sure that any foreign species don't arrive in Antarctica.
Antarctica
This is
a
prior
pristine
to
environment, and you absolutely want
COVID.
to keep it that way. And when you're delivering
Pretty sure.
thousands of tons
Yeah.
of cargo, it's quite easy for things.
I believe
to get
COVID
hidden,
started in December
maybe in
2019.
The tracks of an excavator or something like that.
We engaged with Transglobal Projects, who BAM worked closely with in T-Sport in the north of England, and we had 10 weeks to bring in all the equipment, check it all over, make sure it was compliant both technically for going to Rotherham and also that it was cleaned thoroughly before it was loaded on the ship. Every single piece of kit that came off the ship was checked off by BAS and BAM together, and we made sure that it was safe from a biosecurity risk point of view to bring onto the station and start the work. So in terms of the next phases of the project, initially going back in November 2019, we have to complete all the works on the wharf. We're also going to start all our groundworks for the new building, which is part of the modernisation of the research station. That's a 4-season project, and next season we want to do all the groundworks and make it ready for the following season, where we'll put the building actually up and make it watertight.
The proudest moment for me is probably the development of what I think is one of the strongest collaborative partnerships in construction project delivery. We have created a really great team, including BAS and BAM and Ramble and Sweco and NERC and others. It's all about partnering and collaborative. It's about mutual trust and respect. We have that here.
We have such a broad spectrum of people. You know, we have young 21-year-old welders in our team, and we'll have people who are nearing the end of their career, and they've all been happy to put their hands up and help us come and deliver this unique project. It's really about seeing the joy and the commitment and the engagement that we have right across the team. Orcas, leopard seals, a live runway, icebergs the size of football pitches, 4,500 tonnes of equipment transported 9,000 miles. It really is a unique site to work on.
With the effects of human activity on the environment becoming increasingly apparent, the work being carried out by the British Antarctic Survey is now more important than ever before. By constructing and maintaining these remote facilities through dynamic and effective partnerships with contractors like BAM, the survey's teams are able to continue their critical work. Though many of us don't yet recognise the impact of the construction sector on our lives, projects like this, which are enabled by construction and that have such a fundamental influence over our progression on this planet, powerfully highlight the incredible people and limitless ingenuity that shape the world's most important industry.
Good stuff.
If you enjoyed this video and would like to get more from the definitive video channel for construction, subscribe to the B1M.
Aww, good. Dramatic music finishing. I mean, we could watch that. The 900X needs to be cheaper just because 750X disagree. Let's take a look. Pool guy. What's pool guy up to, guys?
Good afternoon, team. Hope you're doing well. Today is a bittersweet day for me. It's actually my very last day to be physically on park on a daily basis here at the site. I am officially moving to the corporate office. I don't actually have a desk or an office yet. I'm gonna home in a cubicle for now, but I need to get over there and start doing my work over there. As you can see, we've taken the fence down. The river's already been drained. Unfortunately, we were kind of in a rush to get it done, so I wasn't able to get video for it, so I do apologize for that. When we work on getting the wave pool drained, I'll get a video of that all set up, and then over there, the tower on that side, we can work on that. I'm gonna make sure that they let me know when the schedule is. Doesn't mean, like I said, you know, I'm not gonna be on park daily, but that doesn't mean I'm not gonna be at the park often. I'm trying to get to the parks at least once a month, or excuse me, not once a month. Houston and Austin, I'm trying to get there at least once a week during the off season, if not more often, especially for a lot of the projects that are going on. I'll be at this site here in Houston because we are doing this project here, which you can see here, all the slide pieces right here. We are working that project. We should be starting here in the next 2 weeks. That land bridge, if y'all remember, I'm gonna put a video in the corner here for you. You're going to see where we had put a temporary bridge here. We are gonna do that again. We do have we're not gonna be the general contractor for this project. We're actually having a third party coming in to do that, which is good because as much as I know about construction, it's nowhere near as enough that we're gonna for this. This is pretty intense. There's a lot that needs to happen. So that's why this is drained. We're getting ready to put the bridge in. That's why all this is gone. We'll be ready to move this in. It looks like they're actually gonna build a drive through here, remove all the slides, get them over into this area, but we're gonna put it right into there. That reminds me, I need to possibly get rid of this fence. I don't need it no more. So anyway, and we need to cut the guard. Ooh, look how bad the grass is. Anyway, okay. So today what I want to show you is, since we're in winterization mode, we don't really want the water to stay in these pipes. So if you think about it, this is a 12-inch pipe. I have to do the math, but I do believe it's 30,000 pounds of water basically sitting there. Here, you know what? Let me look. Just did a little bit of back envelope using my calculator on my phone. So this 12-inch pipe, I was pegging this at around 62 feet. That's roughly 3,000 pounds of water. So all of that is sitting there, right? Plus we have all the water that's in the pipes this way and this way and that way, blah, 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 blah. All right. So we don't want any of that staying there, especially during the winter, because if we have any freeze, it's gonna bust all that stuff. So we're actually I'm gonna show you how to drain. I'm gonna show how we drain these out. We don't have the drain cock here. We have the drain cock down over here. So I'll show you in the pump house, which there's some positive and negatives to it. But all right, let's get into the pump house. Alrighty, here we go. We are now in the pump house. As you can see, we've winterized the TOTS pad, splash pad already, just because we don't need the splash pad. Plus, we're going to be a little bit of the construction on there, so we don't want anything in the pipes. Let's see. You can see the tank's already drained here, right? Splash pad. Catch basket here has already been
still doing
opened
4K
and
at 30,
drained.
guys.
And you see the filter has already been drained as well. There's really no reason to keep water in the filter, so we just drain them. And this gives us a chance to look inside, make sure that the filter itself's in good shape. Now, like I said, this is for splash pad. What is that noise? All the valves have been opened to let water release. Now we can actually bring water back from the splash pad too. Oh look, see it's open? So this is the return to the splash pad that sends it to all the toys. It's actually already been open. Oh man.
Like a ghost town.
The guys have been doing way ahead of me already. So I was wondering, it sounded hollow. So these are the two feeders. I'm gonna see if the other pool has any water in it. But these are the two feeders, and to the top of the mat raiser, this one and this one, right? 245s if I'm not mistaken. Let me see, what are those? Those are 40s. Anyway, well, they've already drained them. You can see the drain valve is already open. Why? Something's turning on and off over there for some reason. All right, here's the filter for the wave pool, or for the lazy river, one of them at least. You can see it's already been hand washed, which is good. So this is what the bottom of the tube looks like. It still needs a little bit of cleaning, but this is what the bottom of the tube looks like. And then it goes all the way to the top. All right.
Cool stuff. So this guy, if you guys didn't know, this guy that does maintenance at a water park, actually a bunch of water parks down in Texas.
This has been drained. We don't want any water, as little water as possible, to be inside of these pipes, because if not, good chance of freezing over and cracking everything. Okay, see this is all drained out. I got a little water still sitting in there. But here's the surge pit for the lazy river. Yeah, you can already see we got some green sitting at the bottom. But yeah, these are all the drains coming back this way, and then of course this is all the suction. These big pipes are the suction. Yeah, wow, they've already did everything. Crazy, these guys are on it, man. Guys are on it. Okay, here's the backside filter. So again, this is a lazy river filter as well. Yeah, looking good actually. Tubes look in good shape. They're not torn. They're not excessively stretched. That's good to see. So right now, let's see. I don't believe that it sounds like the boot is down. So a lot of people have trouble with these spinning them. And what you have to look for is that the bump boot is down. All right, so let's see. All right, see the bump boot? Right there. The bump boot is now down, right? So when the bump boot's down, it's not locked in place, and we can spin this. So easy way to do it is to get a good grasp in the back and then pull. You can actually hear it. Now it's a little tough because I'm not doing it right, because I'm trying to do the camera as well. There we go, I got it. Okay, it does work better when there's a little lubrosity, and that'd be the water, right? That hurt my shoulder there. Anyway, that's how you do
and a torn ligament.
Let all the air out of the filter.
Oh no.
So anyway, that's what we're looking at there. All right, let's go to the next pump house, see if they've already drained it. Hopefully not. Well, team, let's walk the lazy river. Why not? It's dry. I haven't got to walk it anyway, so walking to the other pump house. So what we have here, if you haven't seen it, those are the suction side of the river motivators. There's one of the river motivators right there. Right, water goes Water goes, hold on, let me see if I can do this. Water goes in through here, right there, and then it goes out this injector right here. So I've got 16 of those that go around the entire pool.
Motivates the river, guys.
There's another motivator right there.
Motivates the river. 2 ibuprofen seems to be the sweet spot, by the way.
All right. Let's see.
Maybe.
Got a little bit of a bird bath right here, nothing too crazy. And the water flow comes this way, by the way. Wait. No, I got it wrong. Water's going that way. How crazy am I? Okay, so there's the top of the mat racer,
There,
right?
Also, the camera's pointing that way.
Run out, stops,
And I was pointing that way.
and then it spits out the water right here. Water comes out because it comes from the surge pit of the mat racer, right? Too easy, too easy. Here's another one of these river motivators. I can show you what it looks like on the inside. So this is the suction side, and then there's one of the injectors, and that's what it looks like on the inside. All right, too easy, too easy. Okay. Man, I love this tree. Love this tree.
It has to be a pain in the ass for filtration because of all the shit that just ends up in the water. Pretty cool though.
We're in the pump house now for the Rain Fortress feature that's sitting over there. And the surge pit should be nice and full and clear. Yeah, look how pretty she is. Nice. Looking good, looking good. Okay, so for us to winterize this one, the way it occurred, so these, we call these stub ups. So all these stubs, every one of these stubs goes to a part of the section, whoops. Oh, you can't really tell. Okay, but the attraction's over there. So the kids attraction. And simply, see the ball cock right here? Turn that on, turn them all on. And that's it. That's how we winterize this attraction. Very simple. Again, like we did with the other ones, we'll drain the river, or we'll drain the filter, drain all the pipes, open up all the catch baskets. That'll be done soon. Once we drain this attraction
sealed
fully,
motors.
We're leaving up for an event, small event. We don't really need everything to run. We just need the bucket to run. It's kind of like a show. Anyway, we're keeping up for that, but you're still manning it. Make sure the it's chemically sound and everything like that, and filtered and all that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. You can see this one's already dying down, so there wasn't much water left in it. But so those are those 2 pumps. We got 2 pumps over here, and got 2 pumps over here. Same thing. These are actually for the slides themselves. Yeah. Now these motors are TEFC, total enclosed fan cooled. Although we don't want a lot of water on them, it's not going to really hurt them to be getting water like this on them, especially for it not being too long. It's not really pressurized. It's just like they're getting rained on.
Great.
I'm not worried about these. It's not
totally enclosed.
Let's put it that way. Right. Well, anyway, team, thanks for joining me on this one.
Here every day, guys.
See you on the next one. Take care.
Good? Good. Like his stuff. I guess it means he's going to be making less videos because he has a desk job now. So, I'll have to wait and see on that one. Let's take a look at... There's a lot of tech stuff coming out right now, guys. Let's take a look at a Gamer's Nexus. I don't even know if there is one. We might have watched all the stuff there. Oh, and then the 4000 series is coming out on the 12th this coming month. And then the 8000 series or 7000 series video cards from AMD are coming out in November. Live overclocking. X 7700X. I already took a look at Hub's video on the 7700X. Hear about overclocking though. This is probably going to include obviously all the preceding CPUs. Smarter every day. Yes, there was. The Coast Guard series. Let's take a peek at this.
This is out of line. I've got a cat-sized vessel with 8 people in the water. I'm fixing to pick them up.
Hey, it's me, Destin. Welcome back to Smarter Every Day. Today on Smarter Every Day, we're going to continue our deep dive with the U.S. Coast Guard, and we're going to see how they accomplish their mission of saving people in peril and protecting the nation from maritime threats. In previous videos, we've learned about command centers and the command structures, and we've learned about search patterns and the RBM, the response boat medium, with its fascinating control system and remarkable maneuverability. There's still a ton to cover with this series of videos, and today we're going to spend a Memorial Day weekend with a Coast Guard station in Destin, Florida, and see how the coasties go about keeping the boating public safe on one of the busiest boating days of the year, particularly at a place called Crab Island. If you've ever been to Destin, Florida, you have heard about Crab Island. It's a barely submerged intercoastal island where the masses love to come and hang out together. So today, let's go visit the Coast Guard station in Destin, Florida, and get smarter every day. So how do Coast Guard stations actually work? We know the boats are there, and that's the part that does the people saving. So are they more like a fire station where they're waiting on things to happen, or is it more like a police station where they're like going on patrols? If you've ever been to Destin, Florida, you've heard about Crab Island again. It's known as the local party spot. But what I didn't know is right beside Crab Island is Coast Guard Station Destin. I pulled up to the station and met BM1 Seth Pritt, who introduced me to the man in charge, Senior Chief Corey Palmer.
I'm Destin.
Senior Chief Corey Palmer, good to meet you.
Yeah, pleasure.
It was pretty early in the morning, so we just had a few moments to show me around the station before the team on duty was gathering for the risk assessment meeting for the day.
So this first building kind of walked into, this is our administration building. And then over here we have our communications room.
Hey, I'm Destin.
Sean. So we have a computer program that picks up, we're working with 4 different towers here, channel 16, international hailing and distress, and then these 2 are Coast Guard channels, so this is how we talk to our boats while they're underway.
So this is the international hailing and distress.
Yeah.
These are Coast Guard?
And then, yeah, these 2 are Coast Guard, and then this is for more detailed marine information.
Oh, really?
So you can like switch to 22 Alpha, that's a Coast Guard working frequency.
So we got some flippers here.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, they're the real deal.
Yeah, they tend to break less often.
And this is I learned not to call this a map, this is the chart, right?
Yep, that's correct. That's our chart there, or one of the charts we use.
Okay.
So this here was just kind of our general, you call it like a bullpen or something, but just general office space for the folks that come in, need to get on a computer, they can hop in here. Back there, that's our operations petty officer. BM1 Seth Pritt here.
That's right. You get it done, right?
Yes. That's right. He's probably the busiest guy at the station, I'd say.
Awesome.
And then back behind you, we got our armory, and just.
This is the is the armory.
Yep.
Okay.
So after this, the senior chief showed me the mess hall and the crew quarters, the downstairs garage, which serves as the headquarters for all the maintenance they do on their boats. He also walked me out to the boathouse where they pull the boats in and work on them, and at that time it was being used as a temporary gym while they remodeled the permanent one.
So we have 4 Coast Guard boats that are here. The rest of these boats are
Fringe
our
benefits
partners in the area that we all kind of work together to get the job done.
Senior Chief Palmer then showed me the 3 boats they use. The big one being the 45-foot response boat medium, and the other 2 boats are the 29-foot response boat small and the 24-foot boat special purpose craft shallow water, which we'll be out on later. We headed back to the station for a GAR, or General Assessment of Risk, where the team meets and goes through the various risk factors they're facing for their mission today. It's a really
This is like
interesting
police
collaborative
meetings
effort to
in,
establish what they should be looking
no
out
pixel.
for in terms of risk. After this, Senior Chief filled me in a little bit more on this whole Crab Island phenomenon.
All right, Senior Chief, I have set up a camera here, and Crab Island is starting to bake off. How does it go down? Like they're standing up out there, right?
Yeah, so most of that
People are
area
just
is
standing there.
pretty shallow. They can just kind of stand next to their boat, hang out, enjoy themselves. But as kind of the day progresses, so many boats will be on there that you're not able to get to that. You'll be right on the edge where the deep spot is, and that's where the current will be kind of pushing through there as the tide changes, and it can be pushing as much as 3 or 4 knots.
What's the most common injury out there?
It's hard to say. There's really a wide range of stuff that can happen.
They're like literally looking at a drunk spot, guys. Yeah. What's the most common sort of injury when people are drunk? It's usually falling, right? It's usually falling, but they can't really fall. So maybe getting stuck between boats. I mean, you could do all sorts of shit when you're drunk. That definitely looks like a straight up drunk spot.
But some of the more severe ones are drowning.
That happens here?
Yeah.
Especially when you're
You think it'll happen
inebriated.
today?
I hope not. I really hope not. But
That's terrifying.
where some people come to visit, they're not necessarily a swimmer. They don't know how to swim. They
You don't
kinda
need
get
to
that
swim.
false sense
You
of
can stand up.
reassurance, like, hey, we're just going to be in 3 feet of water. You can just be standing the whole time. As the day goes on, they work their way closer to that drop off, the edge of the sandbar, and the current gets them, and then they quickly start drifting away, and that's when they get in trouble.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's awful.
So Senior Chief wasn't exaggerating. As you can see in this time lapse, over the course of the day, Crab Island kind of builds up and gets crazier and crazier. A little later in the day, we loaded up in the 24-foot special purpose craft and headed out on patrol.
All right, so what are we about to do?
Pretty much we're doing recreational boating safety patrol. So we're going out looking for anyone that is doing anything that is not safe, looking for BUIs, anything that may be not legal. We're making sure everyone's safe. We're going to check safety gear, make sure everyone's good to drive their boats today.
How many life preservers do you have in your boat, by the way? That's what the DNR does in Wisconsin, for instance. They check boats for life preservers. If they're being really sticklers, they'll check the amount of life preservers you have. And you don't necessarily need to wear them. Well, at least up here, you don't need to wear them. They just need to be in the boat.
So, like, if I don't have a mustache, can I still hang out with you guys or what?
Well, yeah, I don't have one, so.
I noticed the guy that doesn't have the mustache is the one that has to drive. So you guys just sit around and look cool on the deck?
Well, he barely has one.
I barely have one.
I count it. It's better than I can grow.
It's all a facade,
Safety's the priority every time we get underway for any evolution. If we see something that looks like, that's not right, we'll stop a boat, potentially run some field sobriety tests if it comes down to that.
So what on earth is that? Those are the tiki boats. They're just floating little pallets that got a 60 horsepower engine on the back and just scoot around. You can book them out. So I think it's BYOB, and you got a captain that drives you around all day. The captain's sober the whole time, and they just do their thing.
Yep. If you guys have ever seen what are they called? Pedal pubs up here. They're probably all over the U.S. at this point. Pedal pubs. But basically, you have a bunch of people that get on top of essentially a moving bar, and they pedal around. And there's one person that drives is obviously always sober, and then you have a bartender, and then everyone else pedals or attempts to pedal while they go around the city. Basically, it's like a moving bar. It's actually pretty cool, pretty fucking cool. But there are all different sorts of incidents where people are being dumbasses on it and such like that, where they go down hills and they end up capsizing and tipping them over and stupid shit. Drunk people do a lot of stuff, guys, which is pretty hilarious whenever you take a look at these. And this. Oh, that makes money. I bet that prints money right there. The kids love that shit.
Yep. That is bizarre. It's brilliant.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really smart, huh? That's great.
Very quickly as we got out to Crab Island, it became very apparent that there were a lot of inexperienced people operating boats in close quarters, which wasn't necessarily the safest thing. Within a few minutes, we had helped somebody whose rented jet ski wasn't working or they didn't know how to operate it. I saw the anchor line in one boat get caught around the anchor of a big yacht. Despite the mustaches for the two guys on the front of the boat, this is not the TV show Cops. So I want to make a couple of points. I recorded things from that patrol boat that I don't want to put on the internet, and it's because people were out there enjoying time with their families in different states of mental awareness because of choices they had made.
How fucking drunk are they and under the influence? I actually understand. This is because he could actually get clicks if he wants to do things, like if he wants to do the normal clickbait shit, like he literally can make this like Cops where they're pulling people over or whatever. But obviously his intent here is just to show what the Coast Guard does, not necessarily show them trying to be badasses or something like that, right? Because Coast Guard's actually a part of the government that's actually really important. Yeah. And you can, it's easy bait, guys. Going to a party spot like that and then just like trying to give people like breathalyzers or something like that, you could literally just print tickets if you wanted to.
It's not a great look for a lot of people, and I want to respect people's privacy, so I'm not going to put that
Good
out
for
there.
him.
But I will tell you this. I learned things I didn't know. For example, I didn't know the Coast Guard can just board your vessel and they can inspect everything you have on board to make sure you have the proper safety equipment, the stuff required by law, like fire extinguishers, flotation devices. I had no idea that they can board whether you want them to or not. One thing I just want to make abundantly clear, if you're going to be in control of a vessel on the water, it's in everybody's best interest, especially yours. Just don't consume alcohol.
Driving.
Just don't do it. A little later on, we were doing a boarding out on the outer edges of Crab Island, and then things got serious. There was a report that a woman out in Crab Island didn't have a pulse.
Come over here, 1018, the east side of Crab Island. There's a subject on a boat up in the middle of Crab Island that apparently doesn't have a pulse and is not breathing.
Hey, drop it, drop it, drop it!
See y'all.
Back at the station, the paramedics were called. Some of the local law enforcement officers had jet skis and they could get out into the center of Crab Island. And when they got to her, suddenly she had revived on her own and she had refused medical attention.
She's awake, she's conscious, she's talking. She's fine.
So it was kind of an odd but a good outcome. At the end of the day, some folks on a boat got our attention and pointed out another boat that was in distress. It ended up that some ladies had rented a pontoon boat and it had gotten pushed by the current against the bridge and they were pinned there. So we went over to help them get free and get them back underway, and afterwards Machachi, who's a mechanic, made sure that there was no damage to their engine and that they could operate properly. Back at the station, my buddy George was filming in the comms room when an important call came in.
I've got a cat-sized vessel with 8 people in the water. I'm fixing to pick them up on my position.
Vessel handling Coast Guard Station destination. Roger, what is your location?
30 degrees, 20, 925, 86 degrees, 30, 113.
Captain, this is Coast Guard Station destination. Roger. Can you confirm you have
all the personnel out of the water? Over.
Cast off.
So as that was happening, we could hear the radio calls going back and forth and quickly got ready to head that way.
Accounted for all personnel.
They're still in the water. You are working at this moment to get them on your vessel. 925? 925. Okay.
Hey, Casey.
2 miles south of the pass.
Pretty cool.
Yes, sir! We took off out to sea and I quickly began to appreciate why they usually use the larger response boat medium when they head out of the harbor out into the ocean. It was a heck of a ride, and even with the built-in shock absorption, man, it was a lot. We heard over the radio that everyone was safely retrieved from the water by the captain of the Adeline, so I cannot imagine how stressful this ride would have been out to the sinking vessel, knowing that people might have been in danger. It would have been a very different mood.
How far out are we going? 2 more miles. 2 more miles? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Holy crap.
It was a very long 2 miles, and thankfully when we got there, the captain of the Adeline was headed back in with all 8 boaters on board.
So this boat just flipped up. I had sunglasses somewhere. this boat just capsized. 8 people were on it.
Did we watch this before? I swear this moment. I swear I've seen this.
So what are you guys doing now?
We're just picking up debris. We're gonna stay in the location for a little while just to make sure we don't hear anything. Maybe someone trapped in the hull or something, we can hear them. But we're pretty sure we heard from the source that there were 8 people in, 8 people out. Everyone's accounted for. So we're just picking up debris at this point.
Oh, some dude wants these shoes, man.
Yeah, those are. Where's the other one?
It's over there.
Ah, yes.
How fun would it be to take a guy's shoes back?
That would be cool.
Just to bring it back and be like, hey, we got shoes.
Hey, you forgot
Thanks for
these.
paying your taxes.
They were on your boat that you also forgot.
How crazy would it be to get his other shoe, man? That'd be freaking awesome.
It was right there.
Shoe number 2.
Oh, let's go. You got it. There's the other one right there, Justin.
All right, so a boat sank. They're trying to get the numbers off of it. There were 8 souls aboard. They made it in.
They don't tow it back?
Good. Nobody's hurt. Now they're thinking about the environmental issues, such as oil in the water, stuff like that.
Or someone else
now
might
they're
hit
trying
it.
to get the registration number off of the boat.
A salvage company was contacted to come refloat the boat, and we made our way back to Station Destin and tied up. But the funny thing about getting the shoes and the hat is we actually got to give the captain those things back, and I'll show you that in just a minute. This episode of Smarter Every Day is sponsored by Brilliant.
I'm brilliant.
My daughter-in-law, she's 5 months pregnant, and thank God that cooler was there, and then I got her up on the boat.
Oh, those are shoes, man.
I really want to keep that hat. Those Josh's shoes. Marcia's hat, she's gonna love it, man. That's awesome. She goes, "You got your hat on?" Oh, this is too funny.
So is it your boat?
Yeah, it's mine, man.
Yeah. What happened? Do you know?
We're just out there on anchor fishing.
Yeah.
And the way the lines were just going and going. I was like, you know what, man? Screw this. It was starting to come over the back, with the wave breaking over the back. And I'm like, you know what? So all of a sudden the boat just automatically, you could feel it just start dropping. I said, hey, is that pump? He said, yeah, it's pumping. And I tried to figure all I know, man, is it was like, it just started like this and then just like this. And I mean, just literally.
It just went?
Like this.
Was it scary?
Yeah, I wasn't having much time to think about it.
Well, me, for myself,
hang on.
I
got off on the boat. I rolled with the boat in the stern, and then I just hung on to it. And
you guys were able to get out and get life jackets on all that?
Well, I couldn't. Okay, that's the stupid thing about it. You couldn't get the life jackets out quick enough as fast as the boat went down. Now I'm former 82nd Airborne, so I've jumped out of perfectly good airplanes. I'm not afraid of anything. But when that went over, the first thing was my daughter-in-law with my grandson. Having to carry my grandson and my son. That was the first, and I got mentally exhausted because I'm looking around trying to find her, but trying to stay afloat.
And y'all were treading water.
Yeah.
I'm grateful that this man and his whole family, including his grandson who's now been born, made it through this experience. And I'm grateful that a good Samaritan on the Adeline was out there and able to get to him so fast. It's a good day for the Coast Guard when all they have to do is manage the cleanup on a bad situation and no one is missing or lost. But I'm grateful for these men and women who were there waiting and ready for the call. A huge thank you to you for checking out the deep dive series here.
Pretty cool. So he's done a couple different videos on the Coast Guard, which are pretty neat.
If you want to check that out.
Because there aren't a lot of channels that actually get inside an inside look kind of on like operations in government military, for instance. So he did a little bit on the Navy. He hasn't done that much on the Navy. He was on the submarine. Actually, be pretty cool if he does more of these, but I guess that's limited by what they let him do. There aren't any other YouTubers that get shit like this, as far as I know. Pretty cool stuff, guys. Google is shutting down Stadia. Surprise! No, I didn't know that. Interesting information, though. Is that on my feed? When did you hear about that? I haven't heard about that at all. Also, guys, I'm under the weather right now. I got vaccinated yesterday, and definitely feeling. I took 2 ibuprofen. I'm kind of feeling better now. Obviously, I'm not feeling better, but rather I just don't notice the pain. So, as pain medication does. I take that back. Ibuprofen is also an anti-inflammatory, so it's entirely possible that you could be fixing what's causing you to feel pain in the first place, not just covering it up. Because if, depending on what's happening, your body gets inflamed, and that can cause pain from in and of itself, right? And inflammation is kind of weird. I don't think it generally does anything like helpful. Follow from the Dart impact. We talked a little bit about that, which is where they crashed a rocket into a meteor in an attempt to deflect it from Earth. Not that it was in immediate danger to Earth, but rather they're just testing out the ability to deflect meteors. Asteroids. I mean, it's been dead a couple different times. Before Stadia, there was like I think it was. There's a lot of different variants of cloud gaming. Yeah, like I just feel like I'm not sick. I just feel like shit because of the immune response from my body. This is more. I was talking about this a little bit earlier. This is so the new booster right now is the ambivalent booster, which is supposed to be about half for Omicron and half for COVID, to boost it up. And this is completely, well, not completely different. It's definitely different than my prior booster. My prior Moderna booster earlier this year, like in January or something. My prior booster was, no, actually it was December last year. My prior booster, before Christmas, I made sure to get it right away. My prior booster just gave me a sore arm and it wasn't really a big deal. This one makes me, I'm pretty sure I had Omicron in like February earlier this year. And I've never been that sick before in my life. And it is, well, not never. It's been one of the worst sicknesses I've ever had. And it literally is like I went through four different sicknesses, like one after another. It was so fucking weird. The symptoms were just all over the place. Like one day it felt like I had strep throat. Another day it felt like I had a horrible case of the flu and just hurt, like could barely move, sap for energy. Another day it's like I had a really bad cold and like a hardcore fever. And then there was another day where my nose was just, everything was just plugged in the front of my face. It felt like I had like allergies. Everything was just plugged up here and super amount of pressure. This feels like the body aches I was getting, but it's only like 50% of what I had. So it's not really that big of a deal. And I suspect it's probably going to go away maybe tomorrow or the day after. I really only started feeling the booster 12 hours after I got it is when I started feeling symptoms from the booster. Like yesterday, I started to stream and that wasn't, I wasn't feeling the effects from it at that point. It was mainly around 7 in the morning where I started feeling it. Yeah. Otherwise, I mean, compared to getting Omicron or COVID, compared to getting COVID, guys, definitely would recommend getting your option. But I might not get it. Sure, you might not get it. Doesn't really matter, does it? You can just get it anyways. The booster. Oceans are getting warmer in the southern hemisphere for some reason compared to the northern hemisphere. See if I have anything here on Stadia. Nuclear weapon expert says we should be extraordinarily concerned about Putin nuking. Can't use nukes. That'd be really fucking weird. That would immediately just start like World War III. I don't think that's even a thing. Putin, by the way, has not directly threatened using nuclear weapons. He has said he's going to use everything at his disposal. So it's alluding to threatening to use nuclear weapons. It's like three removed from actually using nukes. It's a bit different. And it's why, because he knows the moment that he does that, he's going to get all sorts of people rubbing down his back, and it's probably going to kick off something he doesn't want to actually deal with. Just the same way if he nuked Ukraine, like literally everyone would just crawl all over him. That's not something that first world governments would fucking put up with, U.S. included. Hey, Ante. I don't go to Windows 11. There's no reason to switch to Windows 11, and there's weird bugs with performance issues with Windows 11, so why would I bother installing it? This isn't even like Windows 7 to Windows 10 or something. There's just no reason to use Windows 11. It's basically an inferior product to Windows 10, so I'm not on it. When all my limbs went numb one morning, I went to urgent care in a panic. Turned out I had a B12 deficiency. B12 is vitamin B in general is pretty important for your cognitive function. It's actually one of the things that helps dementia, apparently, or staving off dementia. Thought Windows 11 has better performance? No, they're both on par with each other. If everything's working properly, they're on par. So it's basically identical or net negative. There is a possible case specifically for the new Intel CPUs where the thread scheduler is improved and it performs better. It's supposed to. Doesn't always do it, by the way. It performs better with the weird-ass energy efficient and performance cores that Intel CPUs have. 12,000 Series Plus now have different CPUs on them. They have two different types of CPUs. They're called performance cores and energy efficient cores, P and E cores. And the E cores function differently than P cores. You obviously do not want the OS putting CPU intensive tasks that require like high performance onto your energy efficient cores, right? And Windows 11 is supposed to help with that. And there's conflicting reports. I don't think anyone's went back and looked. There's probably someone that's went back and looked at it again. But there was problems originally with it where it was actually making performance worse. I actually wonder what the goals of war are. We talked about this before. I think it's just a pissing contest. I think Putin wants to make a legacy for himself, and he thinks he's like trying to restore the prestige to Russia, right, to Mother Russia, because when the USSR fell, it lost a couple different, now their own countries that split off from the USSR. Ukraine was one of them. So it's like one of these things where they're trying to get back what they had, but the thing is, like, it's not positive. You can't, with the way that sanctions work nowadays, you don't want to do it because it's going to be net negative for your country. What for just a tiny little piece of land? Like, Russia's huge. Russia has a shitload of stuff happening in it. Why would they need more land? Russia's huge to begin with. They have plenty of resources, the natural resources, arable land, like oil, everything that they could actually want is in their country. They just have to monopolize it, right? They just have to take advantage of it. There's plenty of people living there. Like, there's lots of good stuff happening in Russia, and it just comes down to managing their country, right? So why would they go gobble up another country? It doesn't make sense, which is why there's a shitload of people. If you guys have seen some of the news segments, there's a lot of Russian citizens that are leaving the country now because of the draft, and they fear being drafted, which makes sense. They have no interest in their war. Like, why would they stick around, right? They have no interest in going and dying in a tank that's antiquated and can't stand up to modern anti-tank weapons. Like, Putin's just like throwing a bunch of tanks over at Ukraine, and they're just getting like to eat up their javelins or something. Like, it's fucking weird, and like they don't last because they aren't good. Yeah, we talked a bit about natural gas. This is like one of the worst things, and then with the Nord Stream, with the sabotage that just happened, we read an article on that yesterday before my internet went down, and they don't really know who caused it, but that's putting even more pressure on natural gas. It wasn't running because they shut it down already, but it just released a shitload of methane, which is a horrible greenhouse gas. We talked a bit about this before. Like, Russia might inadvertently start like a world war, not because people are like going to go and like get their dick between Ukraine and Russia, but rather because of energy war that's going to come up because of climate change that's going to cause different parts of the world to become uninhabitable, and then people are going to have to move around, and there's going to be wars for land that actually like exists. And because natural gas is the cleanest burning version of fossil fuels. Actually, technically not true. The cleanest version of I guess it's not a fossil fuel. Hydrogen is cleaner burning than natural gas is, but natural gas is very, very clean as far as fossil fuels go. Hydrogen I don't think comes from natural gas or fossils at all, so you can't really call it a fossil fuel. Yeah, and then they put a bunch of like, it's just making everything worse for Europe, who now needs to start depending on coal again, and especially with coal power plants that are antiquated because they aren't up to spec because they were shut down years ago. Like, Germany now is refiring their coal power plants because they don't have a choice, is basically what it comes down to. Europe's in a pretty tight spot right now, and obviously Russia is, cause of that, right? Hydrogen isn't really clean. It's definitely clean. It takes a while to make. Yeah. You mean different methods for creating the hydrogen? Not necessarily. Hydrogen is hydrogen. It doesn't matter where it comes from. It's all hydrogen. But there's different ways of creating hydrogen. Yeah, and like for hydrogen-powered cars, one of the problems with it is actually making, I forgot if hydrogen-powered cars are actually combustion engines or if they're electric. I don't remember which it is, but basically they have a fuel cell in them to produce the hydrogen. Depends on which way you do it. One way, like the more efficient way, actually just takes a really long time. But anyways, that's compared to like nuclear or like battery-powered cars, not nuclear-powered cars, but battery as an energy source. Hydrogen doesn't really make a lot of sense, which is why it never really took off. Throw it up. But yeah, it's lots of things happening right now. It's important to keep up with this, regardless of where you are in the world, guys. It's important to keep up with world politics, especially right now, because of what's happening with Russia and how it's impacting not just Ukraine, but the rest of Europe and also the world as a whole, because we're all connected to the fucking climate marketplace. We're connected to the global marketplace in general, but also connected to the climate marketplace. You don't live on a different planet. Stuff that happens over there is going to affect everything that happens over here. It's just the way that it goes. Putting aside markets, actual markets. Like, you guys know the fucking huge hurricane that's hitting, like, Florida right now, right? It's pretty crazy. That's product of climate change once again. Why the West isn't buying Putin's bluster. I was looking for an article on Stadia here. Magnus, this other guy's name, Magnus Ian or whatever it is. Magnus. It's a chess championship where there's Magnus who's a grandmaster, is accusing another guy of cheating, and they're trying to figure out how he's cheating. New report says oil and gas flaring releases 5 times more methane than known. That's pretty ridiculous. Methane, as I mentioned before, is 82. We learned yesterday. It's not 70. I thought it was 70 times. Gram per gram, or I think that's how they measure air. Methane actually produces 72. It's 82 times worse for the atmosphere or the climate compared to carbon emissions. Yeah, which is why cow farts really matter. Ian's hitting Florida right now. And as I mentioned, guys, I'm kind of out there right now because I'm under the weather right now. I'm kind of like sick, but not really because I got a booster yesterday. DFA's in water. Ah, The Verge. Google is shutting down Stadia in January. 2 days ago. Yeah, I saw that, Casey. Magnus Carlsen? Yeah. I don't have my... I'm trying to figure out which add-ons are actually causing CPU utilization issues, and I don't have one that gives previews. Taker's Guide to Hydrogen. Take a photo instead of posting a link. You have something that just takes a picture of a website? The fuck? Oh, it's behind a paywall. Europe's now threatened by mobile network blackout. Jesus Christ. Let's see. That's their release. Stadia shut down. Trying to figure out which website actually tends to write a little bit more. Let's take a look at this. Not a robot.
Google
Stadia users weren't the only people shocked to learn that Google would be shutting down the cloud gaming service. Developers making
Makes
games
sense.
for the platform were surprised, too. I woke
There's
up getting
ad hoc
ready for my
solutions right now.
workday, and I see on our Discord private chat for the company that one of my employees sent a message saying, "Is this true?" with a link. Rebecca Ann Heineman, CEO of Oldie School, said in an interview with The Verge. I follow the link and it's like, oh, okay. Oldie School had planned to launch Luxor Evolved on Stadia Pro on November 1st and was even planning to meet with Google on Friday to discuss the release plan. That obviously isn't happening now.
Uh-huh. Once again, cloud gaming really sucks. And the ad hoc version of cloud gaming, by the way, is Steam. What is it called? Steam View? Steam... You can play Steam games through the internet, if you guys are curious about that. Steam... Everyone has it built in, by the way. Remote play is what it's called. And you can connect your PC over the internet and it streams the game to you. It's basically like cloud gaming, only without the cloud. From your computer, which costs, basically, you just need 2 Steam clients, or you can get a Steam handheld if you really want to be like one of the cool kids.
Heineman was just one of many that were surprised. We were having marketing discussions with Stadia just last week, Brandon Sheffield, creative director at Necrosoft Games, said in an email to The Verge. Necrosoft was working on Hyper Gunsport for Stadia Pro. They released a new software development kit update 2 days ago. So it's unfortunate all
Someone just
around,
pulled
as
the
I
plug
think
at
the
the company,
platform is
guys.
gaining some good traction. Others shared their frustrations on Twitter. Oh my god, Mike Rose of No More Robots said in a tweet. We have a game coming to Stadia in November. Who wants to guess that Google will refuse to pay us the money they owe us for it? After weeks of paperwork and preparations to bring Donut Dodo, Sir Lovelot, and Siggy to Stadia, we successfully finalized the onboarding process with Google yesterday, developer Pixel Games tweeted. 2 hours later, the news hit that Stadia is shutting down. Sad.
Sad. So once again, one of the reasons that cloud gaming really sucks is because of latency, right? So you have to play games that generally don't have a lot of latency issues. Or you don't use it. But once again, you can just play with remote play through Steam and basically get the same experience, more or less. And there's other solutions, by the way, if you want to play games that aren't on Steam, besides using remote play. Remote play is just insanely easy to use. I've played it before. I was at my friends' when we do like LAN parties. I've tried playing games across the internet. It works. There's input delay, but it works. So you can technically play on like a laptop that's really shitty across the internet, assuming you have fast enough connection. It is mainly based around latency issues.
Stadia's sudden shutdown could have a big impact on developers. The platform never reached critical mass, so developers probably didn't earn too much by offering their games there. But they likely counted on it as one of many places where people could play their titles. And because Google has already shut off commerce in the Stadia store, developers can't make money from selling the games during the last months of the service's life. Google is planning to refund all Stadia hardware and software purchases, though not Stadia Pro subscriptions, so consumers will be getting some money back. Developers may be getting some form of reimbursement as well, though it's less clear what they can expect.
That's the way Google goes, guys. Sometimes they just axe shit that you thought was just going to be part of the... Like, they might just one day just turn off Gmail. Probably not, but they just cut out services that they just don't want, out of nowhere.
On Friday, Oldie School's Twitter account said that Google is working to make it right. Heineman says that a Stadia representative approached her about reimbursing the studio for development costs spent on porting the Stadia version of Luxor Evolved. Oldie School also had Stadia-exclusive features planned for the game but is now allowed to implement them on other platforms. For Necrosoft, according to Sheffield, all I know is Google said they're going to try to do something for us, but he doesn't have any details. Google didn't reply to a request for comment. Both Heineman and Sheffield were looking forward to launching on Stadia Pro, in part because Google shared revenue from subscriptions with developers. While Sheffield says Hyper Gunsport will be available on many platforms, Stadia was a pillar for us, because we knew by launching into Pro we'd get a significant chunk of revenue, enough to pay our dev costs back all by itself. For oldie school, not being able to launch on Stadia won't sink the studio. I was only expecting to break even on Stadia, Heinemann said. We were realistic in that we might have made $10,000 profit tops on the Stadia version. Another aspect of Stadia's shutdown is that the few exclusives on the platform will be unplayable, like Q Games' Pixel Junk Raiders. As an exclusive Stadia title, once the service closes, Pixel Junk Raiders will no longer be available to play, Holly Hughes, head of marketing and PR for Q Games, said in a statement to The Verge.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they would release them from their exclusivity agreement, but they might not. That's pretty shitty if Google doesn't release them from their exclusivity agreement after their game servers are shut down. That's a pretty shitty spot to be in.
To other platforms in the future and is open to working with publishing partners to make that happen, Hughes said. Q Games has brought back older games before, so maybe it will be able to give Pixel Junk Raiders a second life. Necrosoft's original Gunsport remains a Stadia exclusive, and it might go down with the ship, Sheffield said. Some companies are exploring ways to let their Stadia customers keep playing in some way. Hitman developer IO Interactive tweeted Friday that we are looking into ways for you to continue your Hitman experience on other platforms. Ubisoft is going to let you transfer your Stadia purchases to PC. But smaller developers and publishers may not be able to offer the same sorts of perks to their Stadia players.
But to be fair, guys, I really think that every game, you should be able to play a game on any platform you want to. If you own a license to any game, you should be able to play that game on whatever platform you want to. It shouldn't be something where you're locked to a specific platform, assuming that there's a released version on a platform. So, yeah. While it's cool that Ubisoft is doing that, they already got the money. Forcing their gamers to purchase a game twice? Jeez.
And at
Not
least
something that should get a pat on the back for.
Means losing a positive community. For whatever reason, because Stadia was so maligned by the players who didn't play it, the actual Stadia players were almost like, apologetically nice, he said. They gave any new game that came out a try, they were really supportive of devs and of each other, and in general somehow the platform cultivated one of the nicest, least toxic player groups I've seen on any platform. So we really wanted to release the game on Stadia out of appreciation for them supporting the original game as much as they did.
It's probably comprised almost exclusively of casual players because they're people that don't own PCs. So it's just someone that basically owns a subscription to a service to play games, but they aren't really so into it where they're willing to build a PC and then, get into the PC scene or even Xbox. I mean, Xbox and PlayStations are pretty easy to set up and get, play games on them, right? Kind of seems that way. Like the people that actually would go all the way to use Stadia. What kind of demographic is that? Which is one of the reasons that it's shut down is because there's no demand. Like any gamer that really is wants to play games is either going to get a console or they're going to get a PC. Stadia has always been this weird area that didn't ever really made sense. Just like with all the other cloud gaming initiatives that fell through. And Stadia's not the first one. This is just Stadia's been around for 8 years at this point. It's been a while. Cloud gaming providers. Be a list. Just like the PlayStation has one now too. Cloud gaming services of 2022, wave of the future. Oh yeah, everyone's gonna give up their PC to play games on cloud gaming. I heard that back in the 2000s. I remember that being hilarious. Cheek flare? Okay, no. Okay, don't care. GeForce Now. Okay, yeah, I've heard of that. PlayStation Now, yep. Google Stadia, bye-bye. Shadow. Not a cloud gaming service, instead it's a cloud computing service, unlike other cloud gaming services that allocate pieces of the resources when you want to play games. Shadow dedicates an entire computer to you. Okay. Basically, compute rental service, Amazon Luna. Heard of it, I didn't know it was cloud gaming. Playkey. Playkey uses blockchain technology. Huh. Very weird. Paper space. Paperspace is now another cloud compute. Signs a Windows computer you can use whatever way you want. Highly affordable cloud gaming service. Framelate comes to the rescue, makes your PC act as a host and streams your PC games to your mobile devices. That's what Steam Play does. Remote play on Steam. Full-fledged gaming experience. It's like a bunch of companies just doing the same shit. Basically just a lot of remote play. Good stuff, guys. Okay. Punked cloud gaming service. On live. This wasn't on, it was on live. Bye-bye! I believe this was the first service. Bye-bye on live 2009. And sold to Soe. The OnLive console. That's the one benefit of having a streaming service is basically you can do you don't need to have a big interface to actually use it. It just needs to be like a small computer. I have them. If you guys didn't know, the Steam, what do they call them? Not Steam Decks. Steam used to sell them, and then they actually just sold a bunch of them at the end, where you could basically put in your living room and you could play games on your computer in your living room. Very cool, and you can attach a controller to it. Very, very cool. What do they call the Steam? Oh. Steam Link. Yeah, I got a couple of them. I bought them when they were on sale. They were selling them super cheap. $. You could buy them for like 20, I believe. Kind of incredible you can still buy them too. I actually have some in the box still, yeah. Very cool. So basically, you could just go in your, it's the same thing as this. You could just go in your living room, set it up, and connect your PC through your living room. Pretty neat stuff. If you ever want to play games on your computer in your living room. It's like a console. And it mirrors your monitor and your audio. Once again, the little niche that cloud gaming actually is comprised of is basically gone at this point. There's no reason to do it. There's either smaller interim solutions like Remote Play or the Steam Link if they ever bring it back, which I'm sure they could. The Steam Link, or on the other end, you just have a computer or a console. So, bye-bye Stadia. I guess we won't have to worry about Stadia hackers anymore. Not that that was ever a big deal. Stadia. Stadia players find an important update on Stadia here. Okay. Thanks, Google. I appreciate that. Let's take a look real quick at why don't hydrogen cars work. The reason hydrogen is inefficient is because the hydrogen must move from wire to gas to wire in order to power the car. You want it? Donut Media. Truth about hydrogen. Engineering is pretty good. Let's take a look at this.
This episode of Real Engineering.
I'm sure, but it's easier for the stream to look at a video than it is to look at an article.
Home to over 20,000
especially when it's a screenshot. When I can't actually have it read aloud.
As the world grapples to eliminate fossil fuels from our energy diet, electric cars have seen an incredible boom over the past few years. Last year, over 1 million electric cars were sold around the world. The number of Nissan Leafs, Teslas, and other electric vehicles in circulation worldwide is now more than 3 million. And while there are many brands of electric car to choose from, there are only two choices when it comes to powering electric vehicles: fuel cells or batteries. Both produce electricity to drive electric motors, eliminating the pollution and inefficiencies of the fossil fuel-powered internal combustion engine. Both hydrogen and electricity for batteries can be produced from low or zero carbon sources, including renewable energy like solar and wind, and therefore both are being pursued by car manufacturers and researchers as the possible future of electric vehicles. However, a great debate is being waged by supporters of each technology. Elon Musk has called hydrogen fuel cell technology incredibly dumb, claiming they're more of a marketing ploy for automakers than a long-term solution. In contrast, Japan has announced its intention to become the world's first hydrogen society, with the Japanese government and the auto industry working together to introduce 160 hydrogen stations and 40,000 fuel cell vehicles by March 2021. So, which is actually better? At first glance, hydrogen seems like an extremely clever way to power a car. Compressed hydrogen has a specific energy of nearly 40,000 watt-hours per kilogram.
Very explosive.
Lithium-ion batteries, at best, have a specific energy of just 278 watt-hours per kilogram, but most fall around 167.
So,
it's 200.
The way that I'm pretty sure, which we're going to get to in the video, but I'm pretty sure the way that hydrogen cars work is they produce the hydrogen with fuel cells in the car itself instead of having a tank of hydrogen. And I'm pretty sure they don't have a tank of hydrogen because it's incredibly explosive. So maybe that's the reason, but obviously, like, because you can't produce hydrogen really well in a very compact space, so they have to, like, fuel cells are kind of the way that they've been doing it. But it'd actually be kind of curious if that extra space that is now missing for your gasoline tank could be taken up by just a smaller canister of hydrogen. It's extremely dense. Yeah, so like if you can imagine all that space, obviously with the, I don't know what the thermal energy is or the density energy is for gasoline, but it's probably like half. Hydrogen is much more explosive than gasoline is, and gasoline is very volatile to begin with. Actually, is it much more explosive? I don't know. Gasoline's pretty. You drive around with gas vehicles all the fucking time, right? Everyone knows that. For the most part, it's gasoline or diesel. Diesel is much more safer than gasoline is, but putting that aside, it's safer as and it's not as explosive. But putting that aside, your gasoline tank is very, very flammable, right? So you might go, oh, hydrogen's going to explode. Or the people that freak out about like lithium batteries exploding in cars or whatever after they crash, yeah, your gas tank is incredibly explosive too in your vehicle. So yeah, vehicles drive around with bombs strapped to them. That's basically the way it goes. So even if you have a higher density fuel type, means you could have a smaller container, right? And then just make it more safer, like make it more better armored, so it would be less likely to leak or explode in the case of a crash, right?
And 36 times.
But he might get to it in the video.
Kilogram for hydrogen.
This is initial thoughts on this.
Because of its energy density and lightweight nature, compressed hydrogen and fuel
Actually,
cells
can I just Google this real quick? Let's take a look at gasoline energy density. 47.5 megajoules a kilogram. What did he quote here? I don't know how they compare.
Best have a specific nearly 40,000 watt hours per kilogram.
Watt hours. It's actually another Google search. 12,000. So hydrogen is technically 3 times as much energy than gas is, and I mean, gas is pretty explosive. So yeah.
Lithium-ion batteries at best have a specific.
But that also means you have a pretty big gas tank. If you guys have ever been around under a vehicle, they're pretty fucking huge. They're pretty big. They're like maybe 2 feet by maybe like 4 feet. They're really big, and obviously it contours your vehicle in general. But that amount of space, you could then turn it into a small canister that is, a third the size, and then just really thick as far as safety measures go. Voluminous. So you're saying the amount of space that would take up? I'm pretty sure we are going to be talking about liquid hydrogen too. So yeah, there's a lot of pressure here too, and that's one of the ways that you can make gases more dense is with liquid. Actually, I don't know if you can turn liquid hydrogen. How fast? Certain gases take a while to turn back, and it's one of the problems right now with natural gas. If you guys are curious about it. If you ever see how they ship around natural gas in the liquid form, it's in these giant fucking globe-looking ships, right? But when they get to port and they offload it, it actually, in order to get from the liquid natural gas form to the normal natural gas form, it supposedly takes a really fucking long time. So gas doesn't always go from one form to another, maybe safely, very fast. It depends.
Energy of just 278 watt hours per kilogram, but most fall around 167. That's
obviously gas is already
times
liquid.
as much energy per kilogram for hydrogen. And because of its energy density and lightweight nature, compressed hydrogen and fuel cells can power cars.
I wonder if it's just as simple as it's explosive.
Without adding much weight, which, as we saw in our last video, is a gigantic roadblock for incorporating the technology into the aviation industry. The designers of electric vehicles are caught in a
It'd be even easier to do this in an airplane, by the way. There's electric airplanes now, if you guys are curious about that. It'd be even easier to do stuff like this in an airplane because then you could have, there's more room to have safety systems in place, right? And anything else that you would need technically to make it safe so you can transport it.
And range. Each extra kilogram of battery weight to increase range requires extra structural weight, heavier brakes, a higher torque motor, and in turn, more batteries to carry around this extra mass.
Electric cars are heavy.
Limits how far a battery-powered
vehicle. One of the biggest setbacks right now, guys, for anything being powered off electric is batteries. It's storage. Lithium has basically been the cream of the crop for 3 decades at this point, and we need to replace it with a different technology. But one doesn't exist. We're just like waiting on a better energy storage medium than we have. So, I mean, you could say that hydrogen would be a very good medium, right? But then it goes back. Maybe this is an explosive problem. I'm getting ahead of myself, though. Let's just watch the video.
Technology can help reduce the weight of the batteries. For hydrogen vehicles, this weight compounding is not an issue. Additionally, a hydrogen fuel cell vehicle can be refueled in under 5 minutes, where a battery-powered electric vehicle like a Tesla Model S takes over 3 hours to fully recharge. When looking at the range and refuel times hydrogen can offer, you can see why some car manufacturers are investing in this technology.
Tank?
On the face of it,
They have a
hydrogen is a
hydrogen
clear
tank.
winner, but it falls behind when we start considering the
But they turn it into
end-to-end
electric.
production process.
Okay.
While both batteries and hydrogen fuel cells are both forms of electricity storage, the costs differ drastically. Fully charging a Tesla Model 3 with a 75 kilowatt-hour battery costs between $10 and $12 depending where you live. With a rated range of 500 kilometers, that's between 2 and 2.4 cents per kilometer. A great
Electric's fucking cheap. That's because electric's everywhere because we're powered on the grid, right? Electric's everywhere. So this is kind of a get out of jail free card for Tesla, whatever.
price.
And any new infrastructure is going to be insanely expensive.
In a previous
I
video,
bet it's like 4
I
times as
visited a
expensive.
petrol station that introduced a hydrogen pump fed by its own on-site production facility, which used off-peak electricity to produce hydrogen. The hydrogen from this station cost $85 to fill a 5-kilogram tank of the Toyota Mirai on site, which had a range of 480 kilometers. That's 17.7 cents per kilometer,
10 times
8
the
times
price.
the price. And here lies the problem. Hydrogen simply requires
You really should have
more
gasoline as a
energy to
baseline.
produce. To understand the economic viability of hydrogen, let's dig deeper into the production process. Before any hydrogen vehicle can hit the road, you first need to produce the hydrogen. But hydrogen is not a readily available energy source. Even though hydrogen is the most abundant element in the universe, it is usually stored in water, hydrocarbons such as methane, and other organic matter. One of the challenges of using hydrogen as an energy storage mechanism comes from being able to efficiently extract it from these compounds. In the United States, the majority of hydrogen is produced through a process called steam reforming. Steam reforming is the process of combining high-temperature steam with natural gas to extract hydrogen. While steam reforming is the most common method of industrial hydrogen production, it requires a good deal of heat and is wildly inefficient. Hydrogen produced by steam reforming actually has less energy than the natural gas.
That's just what I was thinking. It uses natural gas to produce it. And by the way, natural gas vehicles are kind of a thing. There are propane-powered vehicles. I believe I don't know if propane is identical to natural gas. It's very close, though.
That the steam reforming began with. And while hydrogen fuel cells themselves don't produce pollution, this process does. So if we want to assume a future
so this
scenario,
obviously this is how you produce a shitload of it, but this isn't. It's not feasible.
with as little carbon emission as possible, this method won't.
This reminds me a lot of like the whole argument for biofuels and why biofuels won't work, right? Because you basically turn corn or some sort of organic matter into fuel, but in doing so you waste a bunch of energy and it's very expensive. And then of course you link it to the food supply, which most people don't want to have their food. You know, are you going to eat or are you going to put it into your gas tank? Sort of argument that just kind of that rubs people the wrong way.
Another method to produce hydrogen is electrolysis, separating the hydrogen out of water using an electric current.
What I thought
While
was
the
the way of producing
electricity
it.
needed for this process can be provided by renewable sources, it requires more energy input than steam reforming. You end up losing 30% of the energy from the original energy you put in from the renewables when you carry out electrolysis. So we are sitting at 70% energy efficiency from hydrogen fuel cells if traditional electrolysis is used before the car even starts its engine. A slightly more efficient method of producing hydrogen is polymer exchange membrane electrolysis. Using this method, energy efficiencies can reach up to 80%, with the added benefit of being produced on site, which we will get to in a moment. But this is still a 20% loss of energy from the original electricity from the renewables. Some experts say the efficiency of PEM electrolysis is expected to reach 82 to 86% before 2030,
Good.
which is a great improvement, but
By
still
the way,
well
so there's some people that seem to think that an alternative to ICE vehicles' internal combustion engine needs to be highly efficient and it has to be infinitely better than a combustion engine. There's a couple of things that are wrong with this argument. First, ICE engines have been the forefront of transportation forever. And even though electric vehicles were the electric motor vehicles were prior to ICE engines, internal combustion engines, even though they're prior, the gasoline, the petroleum industry just completely took off and it took everything over. There's like 100 years of improvement sitting on top of ICE engines. That's just something you can't get rid of. It's just there. And it's just the way things are. It is there, and it's something that people have to come to terms with, is that ICE has a huge head start over any sort of alternative to ICE engines. That's the way it is. We've put shitloads of money into ice. It's just the way things happen. I like saying ice. It sounds cool. It's just the way things go on. So even though there might not be a silver bullet here, even though you're looking at inefficiencies, the problem right now is not electric versus ice. It's not EV versus ice. The problem right now is keeping carbon out of the air. The problem is we are using fossils, which releases the carbon from the ground into the atmosphere, and methane as well, releases carbon from the ground into the atmosphere. So a lot of right now, and a lot of the things that people don't understand is not it's EV versus ice. It is rather keeping carbon out of the air. And while you can say, oh, you still use the grid can be powered by multiple different things. It can be powered by windmills. It can be powered by solar. It can be powered by hydro. And most importantly, it can be powered by nuclear, which is something the U.S. still relatively shuns. We talk about regularly. We aren't going to get into that right now because it's another argument. Nuclear as well. And the fossil fuels, the things that we're trying to get rid of and get away from, are still at the forefront. There's still things. Natural gas is still very, very compact in terms of density. There's a lot of good things going for it, and it's much better than oil and coal prior to it. But it's a fossil fuel. It's still one of the things that we have to get away from. And it's once again, it's not just ice versus EV. It's not just ice versus EV. It is about keeping your vehicle from pooing carbon into the atmosphere. And tree capture methods right now, which is going to be big, by the way. Dude, fucking Europe is going to turn into a smog fest because one of the fallback methods, by the way, guys, to heating is wood. That is something that everyone goes back to at the end of the day, is if you can't power your home, is you have a wood stove, right? So one of the benefits of getting away from wood was a huge reduction in smog, a huge reduction in shit in the air and air quality. It's not a problem if there's one person with a wood burning stove in your catch you later, Ante. It's not a problem with the wood burning stove in your neighborhood. It's when everyone's running a wood burning stove. And if you've seen the photos from Chicago or New York or London in like the 1920s where you could barely see shit, yeah, it was pretty bad. And then oil burning started becoming a thing, and then natural gas took off and electric heat took off, and then the world has been a much better place afterwards. So once again, it's not just EV versus ice. It's not EV versus ice. It is getting away from EVs in the first place.
Short of the battery's charging efficiency at 99%. A 19% difference in production costs doesn't explain the difference in costs yet, so where else are we losing energy? The next hurdle in getting hydrogen fuel cell vehicles on the road is the transport and storage of the pure hydrogen. If we assume the hydrogen is produced on site, like it was for this petrol station, then we eliminate one energy sink. But the cost of storage is just as problematic. Hydrogen is extremely low density as a gas and liquid, and so in order to achieve...
So if you guys didn't know, right now, just kind of a segue here, guys. The problem right now with the Artemis launch mission, I think it got off the ground already. So NASA is still trying to get their Artemis mission, or the SLS, to space. Is something launch system, space launch system. The new spacecrafts, which are basically shittier than the Saturn V's. They're trying to get up to space right now, and they use liquid hydrogen. And the problems they've been having right now is trying to get the liquid hydrogen into the tanks. It's a little bit different because they have to have like quick releases and shit. But hydrogen is very small molecules, and it floats off and disappears into the nether.
Liquid energy density, we have to increase its actual density. We can do this in two ways. We can compress the hydrogen to 790 times atmospheric pressure, but that takes energy, about 13% of the total energy content of the hydrogen itself. Alternatively, we can turn hydrogen into liquid cryogenically. The advantage of hydrogen liquefaction is that a cryogenic hydrogen tank is much lighter than a tank that can hold pressurized hydrogen. But again, hydrogen's physical properties means hydrogen is harder to liquefy than any other gas except helium. Hydrogen is liquefied by reducing its temperature to minus 250 degrees Celsius, with an efficiency loss of 40% once you factor in the added weight of the refrigerators and the refrigeration itself, so pressurization is a better option at a 13% energy loss. Once the hydrogen is produced and compressed to a liquid or gas, a viable hydrogen infrastructure requires that hydrogen be able to be delivered from where it's produced to the point of end use, such as a vehicle refueling station. Where the hydrogen is produced can have a big impact on the cost and best method of delivery. For example, a large, centrally located hydrogen production facility can produce hydrogen at a lower cost because it is producing more. but it costs more to deliver the hydrogen
So
because
the trade-off here, guys, is you're basically comparing. What it comes down to with the hydrogen car is you're comparing energy density sources, with hydrogen's pretty good at, to an EV. You're comparing lithium battery compared to a hydrogen gas tank, right? Or gasoline as we have now, or diesel.
the point of use is further
Or
away.
propane.
In comparison, distributed production facilities produce hydrogen on site, so delivery costs are relatively low. But the cost to produce the hydrogen is likely to be higher because the production volumes are less. While there are some small-scale, on-site hydrogen production facilities being installed at refueling pumps, such as the station mentioned in my last hydrogen video, until this infrastructure is widespread, we have to assume that the majority of hydrogen is being transported by truck or pipeline, where we know that the energy losses can range from 10% up to 40%.
This is no different than transporting gas. Once again, ICE engines have had a huge leg up on everything else in the industry forever. This is going to be a problem just until it gets spread out, just like smart chargers, right? Just like having EV chargers at gas stations or wherever where you can leave your vehicle and then charge them up.
In comparison, assuming that the electricity we use for charging the batteries comes from completely renewable resources, we just have to consider the transmission losses in the grid. Using the United States grid as a reference for typical grid losses, the average loss is only 5%. So in the best case scenario for hydrogen, using the most efficient means of production and transport, we lose 20% of energy during PEM electrolysis and around 13% for compression and storage, amounting to a 33% loss. In other systems, this could be as much as 56%. For battery power up to this point, we've lost just 6% to the grid and recharging, bringing our best case efficiency difference to 27% and our worst case to 50%. The next stage of powering electric vehicles is what is called the tank to wheel conversion efficiency.
There's definitely there are definitely losses when you charge something. If you ever feel a transformer, it puts out a lot of heat, right? Depending on the transformer and how efficient it is. So I don't think that's completely correct that he's only looking at transmission costs from transmission across the grid when he's not actually looking at the conversion in your vehicle to the Tesla from the charger itself.
For hydrogen fuel vehicles, once the hydrogen is in the tank, it must be reconverted into electric power.
This is what I don't understand. So I thought that hydrogen cars produced the hydrogen internally with fuel cells, and then they had an internal combustion engine. Hydrogen burns incredibly, incredibly clean. So I don't know why they're using it to turn back into, they're turning it back into electricity instead of just burning it, basically internally. Obviously, your engine's going to be different, but, oh no, it's a bomb. It's a bomb that constantly, yeah, that's an internal combustion engine. It's a bomb that goes off every time a cylinder turns. It's a combustion engine. Yeah. And once again, burning hydrogen is very, 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 very clean.
Essentially works like a PEM electrolyzer, but in reverse. In a PEM fuel cell, hydrogen gas flows through channels to an anode, where a catalyst causes the hydrogen molecules to separate into protons and electrons. Once again, the membrane only allows protons to pass through it, while electrons flow through an external circuit to the cathode. This flow of electrons is the electricity that is used to power the vehicle's electric motors. If the fuel cell is powered with pure hydrogen, it has the potential to be around 60% efficient.
Why don't we burn hydrogen in a combustion engine instead of turning it back to electricity? The problem with hydrogen cars is they solve problems that no longer exist: poor range and slow charging times. Electric cars still have, this is 2008, no, this is a year ago. Electric cars still have fucking charging times. Unless you have access to supercharger, they definitely have charging time issues. And even supercharger, you're going to have problems with charging time.
The wasted.
It looks like there's a bunch of people that are listing the other problems, which you covered in the video, but no one's actually talking about why it doesn't turn back into, burn it. Oh. This is an article that, it's copy paste. I'm just like looking at, look guys, the Hindenburg is what I'm looking at in Quora right now.
The energy lost to heat.
You'll
Like
explain
hydrogen
it.
fuel cells, batteries come with inefficiencies and energy losses.
This is what I don't
The grid
understand. Why are
provides
they turning it back into electricity?
current while the batteries store the charge in DC. So to convert AC to DC, we need a charger. Using the Tesla Model S.
By the
as
way,
an example,
converting back, this is a horrible idea. Like I can completely understand. I can completely understand why they this makes hydrogen cars completely unfeasible, but why is it not just used as an ICE engine? So ICE running on hydrogen.
Peak charger efficiency is around 92%.
There has to be a reason for it, right?
The Tesla Model S runs on AC motors. Therefore, to convert the DC current supplied by the batteries to AC current, an inverter has to be used with an efficiency of roughly 90%. Additionally, lithium-ion batteries can lose energy due to leakage. A good estimate for the charging efficiency of a lithium-ion battery is 90%. All of these factors combined lead to a total efficiency of around 75%. However, hydrogen fuel cell vehicles have some of these same inefficiencies. Any kind of electrolysis requires DC current, and therefore a rectifier will be required to convert the AC current from the grid to DC. The conversion efficiency here is 92%. We also need to convert the DC current produced by the fuel cell to AC current to power the motor through an inverter with an efficiency of 90%. Finally, the efficiency of the motor must be considered for both the fuel cell and battery-powered vehicles. Currently, this is around 90 to 95% for both, which is amazing when you consider that internal combustion engines running on petrol have an efficiency of only around 20 to 30%. If we add up all these inefficiencies and compare current generation batteries to the best and worst case scenario for current gen hydrogen, we can see how they measure up. Even with the best case scenario, not taking into account any transport use.
Right here, this right here you can completely knock out by burning it. What's the charger? It's just losses from plugging it in.
Due to on-site production, and assuming very high electrolysis efficiency of 80%, and assuming a high fuel cell efficiency of 80%, hydrogen still comes out at less than half the efficiency. The worst case scenario is
you knock this out, and you change if it's made on site. That'd be very close to EV, only you don't have a giant lithium. Another problem with lithiums right now, EVs, guys, is the lithium pack, as most people have talked about. If you're looking at the left and right, or you're looking at fossil fuels versus green people, the fossil people that are talking about the fuel types, they're talking about like the inherent problems with mining lithium right now, which it is very dirty. And as such, you have a lot of waste products, and that really hurts this. Although, once again, that's a future problem, because right now we're just trying to keep the carbon in the ground, right? It's a future-looking problem, so maybe not identical.
It's even worse off. So while you may be able to go
Even
further on one fill-up of hydrogen in your fuel cell vehicle over a battery-powered electric vehicle, the cost that is needed to deliver that one fill-up would be astronomically higher compared to charging batteries due to these energy losses and inefficiencies. Based on our worst-case scenario,
Even talk
we could
about why
expect
it's
the
not
cost
burned.
per kilometer to be about 3.5 times greater for hydrogen. But as we saw earlier, it's actually 8 times the price. So additional cost of production unrelated to efficiencies are obviously at play. The cost of construction of the facility is one, and the profit the station will take from the sale is another. For now, these inefficiencies and costs are driving the market, where most investment and research is going into battery-powered electric vehicles. So which wins? Both are equally more green than internal combustion engines, assuming equal renewable resources are used to power them. Fuel cells allow for fast fill-up times and long ranges, a big advantage, but battery-powered vehicles might catch up in range by the time there are enough hydrogen stations to make fuel cell vehicles viable. While fuel cells are efficient relative to combustion engines, they are not as efficient as batteries. They may make more sense for operation disconnected from the grid, or as we saw in our last video, using hydrogen for planes actually could make a lot of sense, but once again, that's a topic for another video. For now, battery-powered electric vehicles seem to be the sensible choice going forward in the quest for pollution-free consumer transport. As battery-powered cars become more common, we're also starting to see self-driving cars become the norm. If the job of the driver is slowly automated away and consumers have a bunch of free time to read or watch online video, it may be wise to use that opportunity to start learning new skills, and Skillshare is a great place to do it. You could take this course on Photoshop for beginners and learn a skill that has helped this channel immensely.
And fast forward. Okay. Let's see. Maybe he has a new video on that. Let's see. Truth about hydrogen.
This episode of Real Engineering is brought to you by Skillshare. Matter of this
So
video
it doesn't
on my
get
Instagram.
resuggested. Real Engineering. I talk about, we aren't going to watch another 60-minute video here. Here's why Toyota's new hydrogen car is the future. It has an ICE engine in it. Scotty Kilmer's always reminded me of like a shitty car or a used car salesman that tries to sell you on something. Hydrogen engines are a bad idea.
Hello everyone and welcome. In this video we are going to be talking about why hydrogen combustion engines are a dumb idea. They're very cool engines. Unfortunately, they're not the smartest way of using hydrogen for transportation. So in this video we're going to be looking at two key differences between a hydrogen combustion engine and a hydrogen fuel cell and why using a hydrogen combustion engine maybe isn't the smartest thing to do. Now if you haven't yet, you certainly don't have to, but it could be worth checking out, if not now, after watching this video, my videos on how a hydrogen combustion engine works, as well as my video on how a hydrogen fuel cell works to help give you some background on what's going on between these two different things. But in this video, we're going to get into two major differences and why using a hydrogen fuel cell is so much better of an idea. So first, we need to talk about the reactions. And so we're going to be looking at the process, the chemical process that's occurring with each to determine, what's the advantage here for fuel cells. So ultimately, out on the surface, the very basic reaction we have, 2 H2s, hydrogen, plus O2, oxygen, and then we end up with 2 H2O. So from our hydrogen combustion engine, our only emission is water. That sounds awesome. With a fuel cell, your reaction, same thing. 2 H2 plus O2 gives you 2 H2O. Your only byproduct is water. Awesome. If both of these were true, that'd be wonderful. No difference between the two. Unfortunately, with this hydrogen combustion engine, because you have the heat of combustion, that's what you're using to create that mechanical energy. You're using heat and then you're pressing down that piston. The heat in that combustion chamber excites these oxygens and nitrogens, and they combine together and they form these nitrogen oxides. So that's the bad news. You don't want to form nitrogen oxides. They're terrible for your health. They're not.
You can capture these though.
Not great for the world. You don't want them.
As you guys know, there's ways of improving efficiency on vehicles, such as a catalytic converter, right?
Carbon introduced in this equation, so you don't have any carbon emissions, but unfortunately you are producing nitrogen oxides. With fuel cells, the equation also is not as simple as it looks up here. So really what's happening is you're taking your 2 H2s, you are then using a catalyst to rip away the electrons from these hydrogen atoms, so you're now left with 4 positively charged hydrogen atoms. Those electrons go off to do great things like power your vehicle or whatever else they're going to power, and then they come back eventually because they're very kind. So they come back, they reform with that those 4 H pluses that you have created earlier, and then you introduce outside air to that equation. In that outside air is oxygen, so you take that 4H plus, you add to that the 4 electrons, you add to that the oxygen, and you end up with 2 H2O. So your chemical process here, you don't have any nitrogen oxide emissions, you don't have any carbon emissions. From an environmental standpoint, fantastic, because your entire process, all your byproduct is just water. Great. All right, so reason number 1, fuel cells are better, is for emissions. Reason number 2 is for efficiency. And so if we look at a combustion engine, you of course have your fuel tank that sends fuel to your engine. The engine sends that power through a transmission that goes to a differential, and then eventually
just like
powers
with an
your
ICE
wheels.
engine.
So gasoline engines, hydrogen engines, they're generally going to be somewhere in the 25 to 35% efficiency range. Let's just assume a pretty decent estimate that we get 25% efficiency once we get to the wheels. So of that fuel energy, we have 25% of it actually helping to move that vehicle forward. Fuel cells, on the other hand, you start with a hydrogen tank. You send that hydrogen to the fuel cell. That's where this reaction right here is occurring. Then you you send those electrons off to do wonderful things. They go to the converter. This is operating somewhere around about 60% efficiency. Some could be better, some could be a little bit worse. Sending from that converter to your power control unit, which then goes to your your electric motor, and then from your electric motor to your gear reduction. And then you, of course, do have a battery, and you can help use that battery also to regenerate energy. So when you're slowing down, you can recover some of that energy. Another efficiency benefit of using it in this style here with that hybrid style with the battery there. So you have an electric car that's powered by using hydrogen because you've got that electric motor up front. So to the wheels, you could be getting somewhere around 50% efficiency from
so
what you started with, the
using
amount
hydrogen
of energy
as a
that
battery.
you started with, and also taking into consideration that you're going to get some of it back as you're slowing down. So it could be a little bit higher, it could be a little bit lower, but let's say it's 50% here and 25% here. Well, double the efficiency. So here, one of the bad things about hydrogen is that it doesn't have a low energy density by volume. So it requires a large amount of space.
Is he talking about liquid hydrogen or is he talking about gas hydrogen?
In order to have a lot of energy. Well, the downside to that is it means you have to have a massive fuel tank if you want to have a long range. So if you have something like these two vehicles and one of them is twice as efficient, that means if you want them to both go the same distance, this one's going to have a fuel tank that's twice as large. That's going to take up a ton of space, cargo space, passenger space. Not good. You don't want that. So the advantage goes here to having a much smaller hydrogen tank. Also, you're instantly doubling your fuel cost if you're half as efficient. So
There's a lot of napkin math sort of stuff.
Fuel costs, hydrogen is quite expensive per gallon, so not a great thing if it's not very efficient and it has poor emissions versus something that has basically no carbon emissions, no nitrogen oxide emissions, and it doesn't have, as we were discussing, it's much more efficient at getting that power to the ground. Now, of course, where that energy comes from is important, and that's another thing here. If this is more efficient and hydrogen is very expensive, and let's say, in the ideal world, you need renewable energy to be creating that hydrogen for this entire scenario.
Looking at a perfect scenario versus looking at something that is not applicable, feasible, is something that is an acceptable standard getting off of carbon burning cars once again.
To be environmentally friendly. So you need half the energy, and so that means you need half those renewable energy producing resources if the vehicle is twice as efficient. So, kind of a cascading advantage to having a more efficient drivetrain. You've got more passenger space, you don't need as much energy produced for it.
Hydrogen has a low energy density? What? Hydrogen definitely does not have a low energy density. We just looked at that. Hydrogen has like 3 times the energy density of gas. Let's be looking at the conversion here.
Transporting it. Now, the one advantage that this combustion engine certainly does have is this type of style right here generally will cost less. But unfortunately, compared to a gasoline engine, is it all that much of an advantage? Not necessarily. So if you're going to use hydrogen, it makes a lot of sense to use it in a fuel cell rather than as a combustion engine.
This is weird
because
disappointing news. The other guy was mentioning that the conversion process from going from hydrogen to wheels is somewhere around that, but why'd you lose 25 to 35% of the engine? Double fuel costs. You don't need, there's a lot of shit that goes into converting the fuel back into electricity. So while it might make sense for a large vehicle, like a bus or maybe an airplane, I don't think it works for a normal car. Advantage of hydrogen combustion is millions of cars with regular engines could be converted quickly. There's no way you can convert them to hydrogen. Talking about making batteries. Hmm. Kind of weird. It's like the majority of looking at hydrogen as just burning it is like newer than using it as fuel cells, because fuel cells have been around. Like, I mean, I think the earliest I heard about the fuel cell cars like early 2000s. Been around a long time. Toyota's developing an internal hydrogen internal combustion engine. Again, it comes down a lot to energy density, keeping a battery and the not just keeping a battery around, but like replacing batteries are a thing, right? I'm sure you guys have heard the horror stories about replacing batteries for EVs, which cost more than their cars. It's also something that's not being floated here. His new engine shocked the car industry. Same guy. Zero to 60 in 1.7 seconds. What the fuck is that? This is relatively new. This is kind of crazy. Take a look at this real quick.
Engineers have been looking for alternative ways to power cars to break our reliance on fossil fuels. The search for alternative fuel has taken engineers to unlikely places, including cow pens for their manure. One of the leading automotive companies researching alternative fuels is Toyota with its hybrid car engine. But what does cow manure have to do with an automobile? What does Toyota's hybrid engine offer now and in the future? Join us as we take a deep dive into Toyota's insane new hybrid engine that shocks the entire car industry.
How the fuck is this? Like, the weird thing about this is, like, the first thing you would think about, right? The first thing you would go to is not electrolysis to make electricity from hydrogen, right? It would be to, hey, can we burn it like we've been doing with everything else, right?
As a gas, but what many people don't know is that hydrogen can power automobiles. But how does hydrogen power a car? Interestingly, it is in many ways similar to how electric cars work, as you shall see. Cars that use hydrogen are known as fuel cell cars. However, as you might have expected, fuel cell cars do not even need to burn hydrogen. Rather, they are powered by compressed hydrogen gas that feeds into an onboard fuel cell stack. The fuel's chemical energy is then converted into electrical energy that drives an electric motor. The fuel cell is very similar to the battery in construction. There is an anode and there is a cathode. Hydrogen enters the anode where it comes in contact with a catalyst that promotes the separation of hydrogen atoms into an electron and proton. The electrons are gathered by the conductive current collector, which is connected to the car's high-voltage circuitry, feeding the onboard battery and the motors.
Obviously, this is much more complicated than just
the main
burning it
components in a fuel cell car include the fuel cell stack, which aggregates many fuel cells that combine oxygen and hydrogen to generate electricity and power the electric motor. There is also the fuel tank, where the hydrogen gas is stored. It is made of carbon fiber reinforced material for enhanced protection. You also have the electric motor that powers the car using energy produced in the fuel cell stack. Fuel cell cars also use a battery for storing energy from regenerative braking and providing additional power to the electric motor. You will also find an exhaust on a fuel cell car. Instead of greenhouse gases, the byproduct of the reaction occurring in the fuel cell stack is water vapor, which is emitted through the exhaust. As such, hydrogen fuel cell cars are zero-emission cars. So basically, just like electric cars, there are no moving parts, but you refuel the hydrogen through a pump, just like you put gas into an internal combustion engine car. Why should you consider a hydrogen fuel cell car? There are many reasons, actually. The most obvious one is the environment.
He's covering everything else.
Hydrogen fuel cells have been confirmed to improve warehouse operations by up to 15% when the forklifts are powered by hydrogen fuel cells compared to fossil fuels. There is also the advantage of reduced operating costs. Bus technology. Hydrogen fuel cells have between 40 and 60% warehouse operations by up to 15% when the forklifts are powered. Fuel cells save money. Less maintenance. Tank in the Toyota middle that to a regular gas tank when punctured, the gasoline leaks out and forms a puddle under or around the car, which could prolong the fire in case of a hydrogen optic blooms to the fiber cover. Toyota said the tanks are lined on the inside with plastic and bounced off the bullets when shot at. A company rep said it wasn't until the test was upgraded to high-caliber armor-piercing rounds that the tank was breached, and they had to shoot at the same spot twice. However, Toyota has added to the Mirai other safety guards, like an electronic system that will automatically shut down any hydrogen line when it detects a leak. As a result of this quality build, the fuel cell stack in a Toyota Mirai will last for the lifetime of the car. It is as durable and reliable as other Toyota cars. The company offers a 100,000-kilometer warranty, showing how much confidence it has in the car. When the fuel stack nears the end of its line, it can either be repurposed in other applications or disposed of safely and responsibly. The next question, though, is how the hydrogen is produced. In actuality, hydrogen is abundant in
When is it going to get
nature.
to the engine?
As the most common molecule, you will find it in the substance to produce a reactant to hydrogen. You can also make hydrogen from electrolysis, or expensive in the fuel cell car on trips outside the state. However, Toyota has been looking at novel ways to produce hydrogen. The company's new method will ensure your milk and car fuel come from the same source, cows. Toyota has been using cow manure to produce hydrogen. The Japanese auto company has the Trigen project, which captures methane gas from organic cattle waste. The Trigen project power plant, the first of its kind, produces water, electricity, and hydrogen. The hydrogen will then be used by Toyota's Mirai and trucks. These Class 8 trucks will be used to ply specific routes with the infrastructure required for refueling. The Trigen project generates 2.35
so where's any of the
megawatts
shit on the
electricity,
engine?
2,300 by a single size of the fuel cell technology in the comment section below.
Nothing to do with the new engine. Okay. Is this the actual video now?
How is your EV powered? Most people drive gas-powered cars, but the number of electric car owners is rising too. While gas and electricity are the two most common fuels for automobiles, car giant Toyota has come up with another type of car engine that shocks the entire car industry. This is the all-new hydrogen engine that is going to revolutionize the whole industry. What is a hydrogen engine? What does it offer? And how soon can you drive a Toyota with the all-new hydrogen engine? You have probably heard of electric cars or have even driven one. While the difference between electric and internal combustion engine cars is known,
Oh my God.
what is the difference like purely electric cars? However, the waste from a hydrogen car is not harmful, and you can even drink it. Water is the byproduct of a hydrogen car, and this is great for the environment. Now, will hydrogen cars ever replace electric cars? Before we answer that question, let's look at how a hydrogen car works. We'll start with the short version and then take on a more technical description. Of course, as the driver of a
I swear to
hydrogen
fucking
car,
God.
just like with a easily get hydrogen
Okay.
to
We are watching that. He has 2 videos on it? Why? Like 3 months apart, too. Guess we'll take a look at a car channel, I guess.
Here we are in 2022, and you and I probably both know that gas-powered cars and internal combustion engines are kind of on their way out, and they're being replaced by electric vehicles. We're seeing this trend across markets, from sedans, pickup trucks, motorcycles, planes, and even into the commercial market with semi-trucks. Really, it's only a matter of time until the internal combustion engine just dies. Or at least that's what I thought, until Yamaha and Toyota dropped some news the other day, which is their co-development of a 5-liter V8 engine. Now, what made this particular 5-liter V8 engine special was the fact that it was powered by hydrogen rather than gasoline or diesel, which means it has 0 emissions output at all, and better yet, it sounds absolutely amazing and makes a ton of power. So sit down, relax, and get comfy, because today I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about this new 5-liter hydrogen-powered V8 from Toyota and Yamaha. So to start this off, I want to make it perfectly clear that Toyota really did not do this on their own, and they had to rely heavily on Yamaha for this. Now you might be wondering, Yamaha, why them of all companies? Yamaha, it's the company that sells everything. Like, hey, I want to buy a piano. Oh, I can help you with that. Oh, I also want to buy a motorcycle. Do you know where I can buy one? You're not going to believe this, but I can help you with that too. It sounds kind of crazy, but it actually makes sense because Toyota and Yamaha actually have a long-standing relationship. They've worked together numerous times over the last few decades. Some of you might remember the LFA, which is Lexus's supercar that really never took off and cost Toyota so much money to develop that each one was sold at a net loss rather than a profit. Yamaha helped Toyota with the development of the V10 under the hood of the LA. But if you go back even further, you'll see that Yamaha and Toyota worked together on the 1JZ. Now, there's people all over the internet that claim that the 2JZ was also co-developed between Yamaha and Toyota, but there's no actual proof of this claim anywhere. Although the 2JZ head is very similar to the 1JZ head that Yamaha was involved with. Anyways, you can actually go back even further than that, all the way to the 1960s, when Toyota and Yamaha worked together on the 2000 GT. This isn't a video about their long-standing relationship, so I won't go into more detail. But simply put, they have worked together a bunch, and it made sense in this context. Although this new 5-liter engine made a ton of news, and it's very interesting and cool, it's not actually a new concept for Toyota at all. In fact, they've been playing with hydrogen engines for quite a while now. In fact, you can rewind the clock a little bit to 2021, when Toyota announced it was building a hydrogen engine to be showcased in the GR Yaris. Of course, the GR Yaris was kind of the perfect application to show that hydrogen engines aren't just for weenies that love great fuel economy and saving the environment, but also for people who love going fast and love the sound of internal combustion engines. The engine in the GR Yaris showcase car was basically just a G16E GTS, which we've made a video on recently. I'd highly recommend you go check that out. They pretty much just took that engine and modified the injection system for hydrogen fuel rather than gasoline. In fact, the experimental hydrogen-powered Corolla Sport had already been competing in the Super Taiko race series in Japan since earlier in 2021 under the rookie racing arm of Toyota Gazoo Racing. So Toyota was getting pretty experienced with hydrogen engines from using them in a few race cars. So it was time to scale it up to a larger engine, which is where the new hydrogen-powered 5-liter V8 comes into play. And much like the smaller hydrogen-powered 3-cylinder G16E GTS that we we just talked about, this 5-liter V8 is based almost entirely on an existing Toyota engine, which is the 2UR FSE. Now, a lot of the news reports were saying that this hydrogen-powered engine was the RCF engine, but I think it's actually worth noting that the 2UR FSE is actually used in a lot more than just the RCF. You'll find it in the ISF, the GSF, the LC500, the IS500. Like, it's more than just the RCF engine. It is Toyota's performance 5-liter V8 that's in multiple applications. The 2UR is an all-aluminum dual overhead cam V8 with 4 valves per cylinder. Funny enough, the heads are actually designed by Yamaha and have some pretty cool features, including titanium intake valves, high lift cams, a dual length intake manifold system, dual VVT-IE, and D4S injection, which is simply port direct injection combined together. The base engine in the RCF outputs 467 horsepower and 389 pound-feet of torque, which is pretty impressive for a naturally aspirated V8. For reference, Ford's 5-liter Coyote V8 engine in the Mustang produces 450 horsepower and 410 pound-feet of torque in its current configuration in 2022. Of course, with this new hydrogen-powered version of this engine, they had to make some changes. Most notably, they made changes to the injectors, heads, and intake manifold. The strangest change to me is that they reversed the flow of the heads. In all these photos shown by Toyota, this engine has a hot V design, meaning the exhaust manifold is in the V of the engine rather than the intake manifold being there, which means this engine will have 2 intake manifolds, 1 per side. Now, the showcase piece and the thing that everybody is talking about is the Yamaha designed exhaust manifold, which is an 8-to-1 exhaust manifold, and it's supposed to produce an incredible exhaust note, but unfortunately I can't show you that because they've actually yet to show this engine in video or sound, so we'll just have to wait and see how good it actually sounds. In terms of performance, they're claiming 455 horsepower at 6,800 RPM and 398 pound-feet of torque at 3,600 RPM. So it's a little bit down compared to the 2UR FSE that it's based on, but it's still a crazy amount of power naturally aspirated, especially considering it's outputting 0 emissions. You might be wondering, why is Toyota even bothering this? Like, why bother investing in it? Why bother pushing this? Why bother marketing this when electric already has a substantial lead? Like, is hydrogen actually feasible? And the answer is no, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But Toyota has publicly stated that they're committed to the internal combustion engine, and it's something that they want to pursue.
It's more of a relic?
Rather than electrifying their entire lineup like other manufacturers. And it's actually not just Toyota and Yamaha. It's also Mazda, Kawasaki, and Subaru, who have all pledged to continue investing in combustion engines and expanding fuel options beyond gasoline or diesel. Yamaha's president is pretty vocal about his belief in hydrogen and the combustion engine itself long term. He said, "Hydrogen engines house the potential to be carbon neutral while keeping our passion for the internal combustion engine alive at the same time. Teaming up with companies with different corporate cultures and areas of expertise, as well as growing the number of partners we have, is how we want to lead the way into the future. Hydrogen engines have an innately friendly feel that makes them easy to use without resorting to electronic driving aids. Everyone who came to test drive the prototype car would start off somewhat skeptical, but emerged from the car with a big smile on their face at the end." This is all part of becoming net neutral on carbon, or at least they say, by 2050. But the thing is, will this ever come to market? Maybe. Will it ever sell? No. If you look at previous attempts at hydrogen-powered cars, they did not end well.
They weren't ICE cars, though. They were all electrolysis.
There is literally no demand for these cars at all. In fact, if you really want to disrupt the automobile industry, like if you look at Tesla, for example, if you want to change up what people are buying, you have to offer them a product that is superior in every single way to what you're currently offering. Hydrogen engines are not objectively better in almost every way compared to gas engines. They make a similar amount of power, they sound the same, and they have the
not compared to gas engines, compared to electric engines or electric cars.
Same maintenance schedule. Like, they're very, very similar. You're just changing the fuel type. So there's no real reason to go buy hydrogen, especially considering the lack of infrastructure. So if you wanted to get fuel, unless you're in like Southern California or some parts of Europe, there's basically nowhere to get hydrogen fuel. So there's very few people who can actually fuel up these cars. So there's zero demand whatsoever. Electric, on the other hand, is almost silent, makes a ton of power, it's easy to drive, eliminates all maintenance costs, and more. As much as you and I both love tinkering on cars, fixing them, making them faster, breaking them, and then repeating the process, at the end of the day, electric cars are simply better. Electric cars might not be objectively better in every single way right now in 2022, but they will be in the near future. Really, the only thing that's stopping electric cars from being vastly better in every way is range and how long it takes to charge them. But that's quickly.
And replacement costs of the battery itself. And if you start caring about the byproducts of mining the battery, which is a big one for the fossil fossils, you could call them nowadays, fossil fuel lovers.
Changing in 5 or 10 years from now, I have a hard time imagining that electric cars won't take over as the most popular cars being built and sold. So although it's really awesome to see Toyota and Yamaha investing in this, building this engine, you know, they did the G16E GTS, the hydrogen powered version of that. It sounds incredible, it's really cool, and I'm sure this 5-liter V8 will sound incredible, and it's very cool. There's almost no scenarios that I can think of where this will actually sell. It's really not that much better than their existing gasoline products other than the fact that it outputs 0 emissions, but most consumers truly actually don't care about that. They just want a good product. They want it to be fast, they want it to be reliable, and they want it to be cheap. Hydrogen is none of those things, but I want to know what you guys think. Let me know down in the comments below, do you think hydrogen is a viable alternative to gasoline or electric powered engines? Do you think Toyota's kind of crazy for pursuing this and just not letting the combustion engine die and going full electric like almost every other manufacturer is doing? Let me know down in the comments. While you're down there, smash the thumbs up button. It really helps.
I don't think so. There's still some advantages to the hydrogen, which is
future videos. Check out the other videos on the
range
channel.
is an energy storage medium
out there. I'm sure you'll love all of them, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
Maybe I'm missing something. The videos we looked at were purely about electrolysis or fuel cells. They weren't about an ICE engine version of it. Fuel is abundant regardless of current fueling stations. People have the idea we could all of a sudden have several billion electric vehicles and big trucks running around. I mean, that can all scale. I don't think that's a counterpoint to EVs is, oh, the grid. Oh, the grid. Since this is a Moto Head blog, this is a Moto Head tuber. There's obviously going to be a bias towards ICE engines just purely because that's what they love. But our complete inability to generate distribute electricity to a worldwide fleet of electric cars makes it practically impossible. Grid can be upgraded and adjusted. I don't think that's unfeasible. We didn't have gasoline cars did not start out with a gas station every couple blocks. Yeah, it's comparing literally EVs versus ICE. It's not comparing EVs versus ICE hydrogen compared to ICE hydrogen versus just a normal ICE gas engine. Fucking weird. It's like you got two diametrically opposed opinions and they can't fucking meet halfway between the two. They think it's just one or the other. Energy, yeah, we should, but there's still a lot of pushback to nuclear energy, and as such, it's not making its way into politics as much as it should, because they take forever to build, so you have to get on top of it right away, right? And by the way, guys, I know I'm well over my podcast schedule right now. I feel like kind of poop right now. I have almost no energy, and as such, I don't really want to play games right now. So, like the videos we watched on why hydrogen ICE engines are bad don't really cover why they're bad. Fucking weird. I think because there's not a lot of information, so they just go on whatever that's available. Hard present decade to wrap up. So they have to produce, once again, they have to produce the hydrogen some way, which relies on the grid. So even though they're talking about hydrogen being an alternative, you don't just have hydrogen in existence. You don't just like, oh, let's go mine hydrogen. They actually make hydrogen. The way the molecule works, you don't just suck it out of the ground. Just a fuel source. It's a fuel vehicle, you could call it. I didn't know you could actually convert current engines to hydrogen-powered engines. That's pretty crazy. Yeah, they went over earlier in the stream. We went over different ways of covering converting to hydrogen in the videos we watched. Rather have hydrogen V8 over electric cars. For most people, it doesn't matter. It's whatever is cheapest and most feasible for them. Besides the niche. Batteries are the biggest problem with electric cars right now. If we had better batteries, that'd be different. But lithium batteries are a huge problem right now, both in terms of replacement costs as well as storage capacity. They suck. And the engineering video we watched earlier showcased that is like what 5% of the energy density comparably to hydrogen for this, like pound per pound. Fucking weird. It's kind of weird that they're like I mentioned before, like the first thing you would think of with hydrogen is can we burn it? Now can we turn it back into electricity with electrolysis with a fuel cell? It's can we burn it in an engine and make it relatively simple, right? And instead with hydrogen cars, they went to like the step above it, which is electrolysis or converting the hydrogen back to electricity, and then powering the car basically as an EV instead of burning it as an ICE engine, which the byproducts of burning hydrogen are much better than burning gasoline. Much better than burning gasoline. This is really weird. This is like one of those weird spots with technology where it doesn't seems like you got like two things. The idea is we have to keep carbon out of the air, and other than that, like then it comes down to how feasible the vehicles are, right? And electric vehicles are great because you just plug them in. But the problem with them is the batteries. It is 100% the batteries. And an ICE hydrogen car does not have the same problems with batteries because it doesn't. The battery is hydrogen, right? And then if you look at a fuel cell hydrogen car instead of an ICE hydrogen EV, then it has problems with electrolysis with the fuel cells themselves. Conversion processes. The earlier video we looked at with the inefficiencies of conversion process. Fucking weird. Supposedly, I don't think it's made its way out yet, though. I mean, that's one of their biggest things is they're trying to capture that lightning in a bottle, right? They're working heavily on replacing their lithium batteries with something else, but they haven't reached that point yet. Because it's been a setback forever. We've had lithium batteries for like 30 years. We talked about this earlier in stream. We've had lithium batteries for 30 years. It is still like the pinnacle of charging your energy storage, and that sucks. Small energy storage, let's go with that, because you can still do things like pump storage, which is fantastic, but you're not just going to have a reservoir in the back of your car, as that turns out. So, yeah. Hey, it's a hydro-powered car, guys. Look, you have a reservoir, you have a little dam at the bottom, it goes down and shoots out the back of the car. Isn't that great? It's powered by hydro. Yeah, I mean, you could technically do that, but that'd be horrible. The amount of space that hydro takes up is insane. Yeah, I don't know. It's fucking weird. And like this new thing from Toyota is like the last year, which is weird. They've hydrogen powered cars through fuel cells have been around for like 20 years. I mean, probably longer than that as far as history goes. But like the big idea for hydrogen powered was not ICE, it was an EV. Why? I don't fucking. It's like they tried to be too technical and as such they just fucked themselves. Really weird. Humans are weird in general. I haven't actually found a video explaining why it's a bad idea, more so than having just a gasoline powered car. The infrastructure's not there. Of course, it's not. As with gas powered cars, the grid didn't. The infrastructure for gas powered cars didn't exist when they first came out. That's just the way it is. I don't know, guys. Yeah, I mean, supposedly. And replacing batteries are insanely expensive. It depends on which model you have. Some of them cost upwards of 20 to 25,000. That's a lot of money for people to spend. It's, you know, grandma driving her Tesla Light around isn't going to be able to afford that, right? It's not the car, it's the batteries. And then putting that aside, there's also the byproducts of lithium. But once again, that's not the biggest deal. Right now is getting carbon out of the atmosphere so that we don't heat up the planet more. And polluted areas can be cleaned up, but the atmosphere is one of those things where it's just going to fuck everyone. It's already fucking people. Yeah. And it will directly, your battery replacement will directly depreciate the value of your car. That's pretty insane. So depending on whether or not you need, how many cycles your battery has had will determine whether or not it needs to be, it'll determine a lot to do with the price of your car, right? The resale of your car will depend a lot on how new your battery is. That's funny. That's fucking funny. Yeah. And once again, I'm not against EVs, guys. I think EVs are pretty cool. I am looking from a feasible and viable standpoint. What is something that, because the way the EVs work, the batteries are still the problem with them. If we had different battery technology, I'd 100% say it's EVs. And the only reason I'm talking right now about hydrogen in hydrogen ice engines is because it represents a different sort of storage, which is actually much better, much more dense than batteries are. As far as pound per pound, hydrogen is much more dense than batteries are. It's kind of weird. You'd assume this would actually be like one of the things where Tesla would get on top of that, right? It actually makes a lot of sense. You see a lot of Tesla. I mean, that's because it's like the biggest seller. And like as far as EVs go, put aside something like a Prius, right? Like a hybrid, they're the most notable. I mean, whatever you might think of Elon Musk, he definitely put EVs on the map. He put Teslas on the map because it is representative not only of the future but also forward-looking green movement, but also performance, because the torque that electric motors can put out is ridiculous, right? Yeah, well, I mean, it's also against his complete business model. So yeah, he sees it as a competing business technology when he could actually make cars that also are powered by like just forward-looking vehicles in general, right? And he doesn't. He's stuck on EVs. But until we get better battery technology, range, charging time is all going to be a big deal. And the way EVs work right now, or the way hydrogen works right now, is it's very similar to gas in how you refuel them, and it takes about the same amount of time. So, I mean, a lot of people have had problems with refueling. You aren't always in a situation where you can just sit at a weigh station for 3 hours every day, right? Especially if you're traveling across the country, going from supercharger to supercharger. That's with superchargers, by the way. Superchargers are just like one thing. There's like an alternate to superchargers, but like the best battery charging right now is superchargers, and that's limited to Tesla, right? There's an alternative to them, but like those aren't widespread. It's mainly superchargers that are spread across the U.S. because the huge investment Tesla made in supercharger network, right, is a big deal. And that's really, I think it's like an hour and a half. It's still a lot. How fast can you charge a Tesla supercharger? 200 miles in 15 minutes. That's actually really good. Okay. That's actually pretty fucking good. But that's still fucking 15 minutes instead of 5. But arguably, you wouldn't even need 200 miles, right? So you could even say, because if you just have to get home for the most part, you just have to get wherever you want to go. And if you're on a road trip, then 15 minutes isn't really that big of a deal. It's time to get out and stretch your legs every 200 miles. Actually, I don't know. I don't know if you'd want to stop every 200 miles for 15 minutes. That seems a little bit, but that's still pretty good. But that's a supercharger. Twenty to 80% is where you want to cycle batteries. I'm pretty sure they do their own cycling internally, so that might not be the thing. 220 charges to 80%. Charges 40% of the battery in an hour, so that's not very good. This superchargers, on the other hand, that's pretty fucking good. But once again, putting that aside, the problem right now is it's not just how fast you can charge it. That's part of it. The other part is obviously the density, range of the batteries, is the density of the fuel, and obviously just the amount that a battery costs is insane. And the added weight from it too obviously hurts things too. Yeah. That's the way it goes. Alrighty, guys, as I mentioned before, I got my vaccine yesterday, and I'm feeling really under the weather. That's why we had a prolonged podcast tonight. I basically took some ibuprofen, and I'm kind of all right, but like I definitely do not feel like playing games right now, so we aren't going to be playing games. I think we're going to call things here tonight, guys. I wanted to talk about Made in Abyss. I guess we're going to have to save it for tomorrow. Very, very good series. The new season, very good as well. Not as good as the first season, but still pretty fucking good. We'll save that for maybe the next day, but I think I'm going to get out of here tonight, guys. It was a good stream. I enjoyed looking at this. There's some. It's really weird. Like like we're like Googling for stuff, guys, and there's like a disconnect between hydrogen and it has to be a hydrogen EV, right? It has to be a hydrogen fuel cell. It can't be a hydrogen ice because the fuel cell is efficient. Putting aside the fact that it has problems with the fuel cell conversion itself, right? There's like a complete disconnect when instead of just using a hydrogen-powered car as just like an ICE engine, they're using it as like a hybrid EV. It's fucking weird because it's like the theoretical better option, which isn't actually working right now. Not where we're at right now. I'm done. I'm going back to combustion. Okay. All right, Starvos. I don't know who you are. Okay. Alrighty, guys. I think hopefully tomorrow I'll be feeling better. I probably will. As I mentioned before, today I physically exerted myself a bit, and I guess that wasn't bad. This vaccine is definitely a little bit different than earlier. The first booster I got of Moderna wasn't like this. I was just basically kind of felt for a day, and then it's fine. This definitely has hit me harder, where it kind of feels like I'm achy and shit, and just kind of under the weather. But that's what it is. I'll definitely take a vaccine any day over literally having my brain turn to goo in my mind. So, yeah, i.e. brain fog. But I'm out here for this evening, guys. If you're new to streaming, enjoy the bullshit, enjoy the fun, make sure to follow on the top right-hand corner. I used to stream every day from evening to late night, GMT-6, so 8 to 9 p.m. Central Standard Time to 1 to 2 a.m., give or take. Depends on my life, what's happening, etc., etc. Tomorrow, guys, as mentioned, will be Dead by Daylight. Hopefully be going back to the dibs. But I am out here for this evening, guys. Thanks for watching my stream as always, and I hope you have a wonderfully fantastic Friday night and Saturday morning. Have a good day, guys.